Този саундтрак беше от Heroes of the Storm. О май гад, уважихме всички значими игри от този BlizzCon, Влади, нали?
Абсолютно. Някои с презентации, други с това, че започва ARX отброяването с тях.
Тъй като Blizzard не благоволиха, да.
Еми, това как му викаме? Нежно залязване, някакъв gentle sunsetting на тея на Blizzard. Въпреки че аз искрено се съмнявам, че StarCraft е приключил окончателно, даже съм абсолютно сигурен, че не е, просто има нужда от много сериозна реконцептуализация на това какво трябва да представлява StarCraft в 2020+.
Абсолютно
това е изключително сложен въпрос, който не смея изобщо да отговарям. Така че
просто
да му мисли това, трябва да го...
Просто да умисли това, който трябва да го отговаря. Освен Мани, други играчи на практика няма.
На практика така, няма, да.
За него го правят. За него го правят.
Аз съм толкова тъжностив, Боби. Толкова тъжностив.
Аз не знам защо. Queen 41 и то на нашето стримче го отбеляза. Oh my god, so cute, so sweet. Thank you, Queen. 41. Fuck me. 41. Човек,
в
момента в който дойдат трицифрените суми, Влади, не знам какво ще правим.
Тогава вече ще бъде. Някои от най-така древните стримове в Twitch със сигурност ги приближават.
Да, със сигурност. Как? Минали са ги? Със сигурност са ги минали.
Да. Въпреки, че дори най-старите са съвсем в началото на тея. Много ми е интересно колко наистина от тях са...
Намалете Key Color Spill, говори за Влади, нали така? Защото аз няма време него, той не си стоеше на столчето да го нацвъкам. Ама най-вече Влади, понеже си черно-бял, сега ще е малко по-друго. Сега ще се опитам да те оправя. Надявам се така да си... Не, много си чуплив.
Крехък.
Мисля, че ще трябва да е така, за жалост. Малко ти яде от левият... Влади, как се казва тази дума? Аркав. Аркав е думата. Прекрасно.
О, боже мой.
Така, днес е втори ден, гайс. И като втори ден няма да има кой знае какво интересно. Ще има QA обаче, които... Ако искате повече подробности около нещо, QA е мястото за това. Вчера изпуснахме два панела. Единият по Diablo Immortal, както може да видите, това е отворено в момента. Той е 30 минутки и има един 20 минутки, който е, ако помня беше 20 минутки, който е на Warcraft. Така че, без да губим още време, Влади, мисля, че...
Дали да не минем само набързо през програмата или няма време за това?
Не, аз не знам програмата. Просто трябва да решим дали ще правим Warcraft панела QA или първо Diablo панел и след това другия. Имаме Warcraft и Diablo панелите QA. Трябва да преценим кой да минем първо, другия ще е вече в YouTube.
Дай Diablo, че не съм го гледал. И само да изясним технологията, аз гледам стрима или какво правя? Не, всъщност трябва да ми дадеш линкче само. И да си кажем 3-2-1 старт.
Ще ти дам линкчето директно в чата.
Добре.
Паузирай го на 0 и ще ти отброя, за да го гледаме заедно.
Добре. Дай ми секундичка. Така. Ами, готов съм.
Добре. Добре. Над 3. 1, 2, 3.
What's up, everybody? Bloodshed here. If you don't know me, I'm a Diablo content creator. I love the hell out of Diablo ever since I was a little kid, grinding legendaries all night, way past my bedtime. As an adult, I still do that, but I also run a full-time Twitch stream and a YouTube channel where we make build guides, educational videos. Because of all this, I've been able to build an amazing community, and I have the opportunity today to talk to some of the Diablo Immortal developers. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, Bloodshed? Should we refer to you as Blood or Mr. Shed?
Лама е логичен.
Mr. Shed might be too formal. We'll go
живее много близо до Blizzard, така че също е доста логичен.
I'm Caleb, the lead producer on Diablo Immortal.
Hey, Bloodshed. My name's Wyatt Chang. I'm the lead designer on Diablo Immortal. Thanks for making this time so we could talk about the game.
Yeah, I'm super excited to kind of delve into Immortal here.
Yeah, and you were actually part of the technical alpha, right? You had a chance to play.
Yeah, I played, I think, over 100 hours. I was grinding, yeah. Burning the thumbs and the screen. It was fun. It was a lot of grinding, but I had a good time with it.
I know some people kind of picked a class and went really deep, and some people played a breadth, kind of played them all. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I went through and I played all the classes, all the way to max level, even grinded out a little bit of Paragon in each of them. But I think my favorite was Wizard. I spent the most time on Wizard. What was your guys' favorite class?
So my favorite class is the Monk. I love the mobility. I like just getting in and out and like destroying whole packs of mobs.
Има някакво първоначално инфо, като това е набор от хардуер без оптимизация.
I just love that it's like the meat and potatoes, pop demons with my axes.
Със сигурност ще работи и на доста по-слаби телефони от тези, които бяха описани в блокпоста за алфа.
Класическия
Every
Blizzard
time we do a playtest of some kind, I like to play a different class. So this time around, it was time for some barbarian love.
Със сигурност, ако имате флагшип телефон от последните 3 години, ще ви върви играта прекрасно.
Ще ги намаля една идея да се чуме с Влади, защото така ли, че има субтитри на клипчето.
There was one sweet legendary I found that it was every time you use Hammer of the Ancients, it would summon an ancient to fight alongside you.
Как смееш да не спираш да говориш за тази игра? Надявам се първо да дойде Immortal, след това да дойде ремастъра и накрая четворката.
Да, най-вероятно ще дори да не бъде с голяма разлика между Immortal и Diablo 2. Това са достатъчно различни таргет аудитории, честно казвам. И е буквално атака на два фронта за събиране на интерес за голямата следваща игра.
Kick, and then you can kick off the wall, and then with Wizard you can place like an ice crystal and then reflect the ray of frost off the crystal and then just do this big AoE to all the enemies in the area. What was it like designing all that interaction that we don't have in other games?
When it comes to designing the skills for Diablo Immortal, we definitely want to make sure that we're bringing something new, you know. In a lot of ways, it's good when the classes feel familiar. And sometimes it fits like an old glove. People love to have their barbarian.
To be fair, в алфата не може да се изключат, но е реквестван.
Ето в момента няма.
It's also really important
няма и UI
като
цяло.
Което е прекрасно.
Да, някой го изключил за demonstration purposes.
Влади не, изключат.
Are really important. You want some things that are new, some things that are improved over previous, and some things that are familiar and comfortable. And I think the right mix of all three when it comes to class skills.
Горкия, който трябва да пише в ICV с 3 заглавия на Diablo. Така е горкия човек, какво ще прави?
Legacy while still pushing in new directions.
One thing I definitely want to dive into is the speed, like the progression speed. It really gives me like D3 vanilla vibes where, you know, legendaries aren't dropping left and right. And like everything you get, you're so grateful because you don't get that many items or like crafting materials. Like you're always kind of thirsty, and then it feels really good when you get it. You know, was this all kind of planned as pacing? Is this what you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, I think that you always want to have a good pacing of reward, but you really want those random moments to be exciting as well. So for us, finding a new legendary item is that surprise, right? It's like, oh, sweet, I got a legendary. And if it's happening too often, then it's not as exciting anymore. But we also want to make sure that you're feeling like every play session was worth it. And so, well, that's where systems like Paragon and Gear Rank Up come in. Where if I play for 15 or 30 minutes and I don't see a legendary item, I've still managed to advance my character in other ways. And so you sort of have that like predictable reward that you can count on.
Ще ме видите
and you
на
also
стрим
have
пак
those
към
moments of
2025.
excitement that come from an awesome game.
Евентуално.
When I hit max level
Като
on my
съмре малко
wizard,
за
I was like, I was
Diablo 2
bummed
за
because I'm like,
Immortal
no
поне
frozen
хайп.
orb, like that's so iconic, right? And then I got a legendary that turned it into frozen orb, and I was like, this is cool. Like it kind of makes you think like anything's possible because you can just kind of modify the skills to become other skills.
Yeah. And you know, there's something super exciting about finding a legendary that you didn't even know existed in the game. You know, it's almost like the magic that existed during Tactical Alpha. You know, nowadays sometimes we play and all the information is available on the internet and you can look it up and sometimes you even know what item you want beforehand. I think one of the things that kind of made the Tactical Alpha special was people being genuinely surprised, like, what? I didn't know that this was in the game. You know, I think that's awesome. And I also think, you know, there's a lot of people who play games and they don't look stuff up on the internet beforehand, and they'll get that experience and that feeling. And we're hoping that, you know, with a little bit of a slowed down pace of legendaries and kind of having skills
през цялото време къде се е насенил
people
Bloodshot
can
надясното
really
ухо.
have that discovery process as they play the game.
I think that's one reason why I had so much fun too in the alpha,
Yeah.
like you said, is
В смисъл, да.
it's a full
Супер
Diablo
очевидно
game.
е.
It's like you're getting a brand new Diablo game, and everything's new, and we're discovering stuff left and right, and you get that like new player feeling all over again. And I'm sure we don't even have all the game yet.
Yeah, it's like a kid in the candy store, right? It's just everything wide-eyed and awesome.
One of my favorite things about Immortal is the variety. There's so many different things to do. And as you're leveling, you get to a point where you can't really continue until you do some other quest grinding. I like it because I can go do bounties or, you know, run some Elder Rifts. Was like the break intentional?
Yeah, oh, great question. It was absolutely intentional. A couple of reasons for that. You know, in Diablo 3, Greater Rifts were great. They're really fun, but some of the feedback that we got was that people wanted a bigger variety of things to do. You know, there's sometimes just, you know, a lot of a good thing can still, you know, leave you wanting to do other activities. And in Diablo Immortal, we said, okay, well, let's make use of our outdoor world. Let's make use of these instanced dungeons that we've created. Let's give players a variety of activities to do. The other reason to have this variety of activities is one of the goals for Diablo Immortal is we really want to double down on progression. We want there to be lots of ways for people to meaningfully progress their character all the time. And so we have, you know, we have the gem system, and we have
Thank you, Ice.
legendary gems, and we have gear rank
Привет,
ups,
човече,
and
благодаря
legendary
ти.
collection, we have
16 ниво.
Paragon, and by having all these different ways for you to
Фусък са пил на
improve
ниво
your
16,
character,
но
it lets
нелегално.
players sort of really feel like, you know,
Музик
what
са
do I
пил.
want to do today? What am I in the mood to do?
Вече
In what
съботи
way
може
do I wanna
да има
make my
книжка в
character
Америка.
more powerful?
I think that's awesome. Sometimes I feel chained to like a quest hub or like a zone where everything is in this one little spot. But being able to go around the world and hunt for different things and have a little bit of variety, and there's a lot of variety actually in the game, it makes it so much more enjoyable.
Cool, awesome. I'm glad
Само
it's
на
working out.
iPhone.
We feel like it's working out pretty
Върви на
well
ужасно
too,
много неща.
and
Споко.
we're looking
Yep.
forward to being able to build
Ще
on that.
върви на не iPhone.
The PvP event is something special.
Те това са двата
it's
телефона,
like
iPhone и
the
не iPhone.
World of Warcraft Garabashi event, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it like designing the PvP in the game?
Kind of zooming out a little bit, every zone has its own event that's associated with it. So, for example, in the Battlefen, like you mentioned, there's a little arena where a chest spawns and players can fight over it every 3 hours. But over in Ashwold Cemetery, you know, every half hour there's a carriage, a ghostly carriage that comes through, and anyone in the zone can come by and attack the ghostly carriage and partake in the loot. And there's kind of like a different thing going on in the dark wood. There's a corruption going on, and then you can.
Интересен въпрос сега, Влади. Те показват стримери, които са играли. Те трябва ли да искат и разрешение от стримерите да показват тяхното съдържание, въпреки че техникли играта на Blizzard?
Най-вероятно не. Мисля, че е стипулирано в...
Да, всъщност ще е част от условията, вероятно.
Yeah, I had some
да могат да
experiences
използват
there.
всякакъв
The
футаж,
first time I
записан от
showed
самата
up,
игра.
it was like me and like 5 people, And I was all bright-eyed, and I'm like, let's do this. It's going to be a fun little bloodbath. I found out really quickly that you can group for the event, and it was 4v1, and it was an experience. Speaking of like these zone events, the actual event where you have to like escort this horse carriage, I believe, through the zone was my favorite one by far. Seeing everybody on the server kind of coming together, fighting over it, and then
500 мегабайта категорично не. Няма да се
Do you guys have any like favorites?
Oh yeah, my favorite is
Трябва
in
да
the library
погледна,
resulting
още ми
pool.
инсталиран на...
Дори Hearthstone
Sort of
гигабайт и
around
половина
the
май.
zone, you'll
Сега ще ви кажа
find
колко е.
these hidden tomes, and if you collect enough of them, you can
Като
combine
това
them
условно,
together
разбира
and
се,
essentially
за алфата.
Да,
unlocks a
това е
secret
алфа,
level.
т.е. не е целият контент.
And so it
Съответно
could
ще бъде
be a
доста
level
повече.
where you go in, fight some mobs,
Доста
get some
повече,
cool
ще
loot,
бъде
and come
повече.
back out, or it can
Да не казвам
actually
голяма дума.
summon a world boss like a Hydra that everyone in the zone has to come together and kill. And so I like the randomness there because it feels like doing it over and over, you could get a different result, and it kind of keeps the excitement up. So one of the things also new is our Paragon system, and we were able to design something from scratch for this game with all the learnings we had from Diablo 3. So my question, like, is actually for Wyatt, like, what was that like designing a new Paragon
Новата
system?
Paragon система.
It was cool. It was cool. You know, we had Paragon in Diablo 3, but once you reach Paragon 800, it became a more sort of just a linear path. And being able to say, okay, we know that Diablo Immortal is a game that's going to, you know, have a long lifetime. We're going to provide content updates to it. We're going to be adding and expanding on all of the features. How can we design a Paragon system that is exciting now, but will also be exciting
Около 5
years
гигабайта
into the future?
е на
And
телефона ми.
that's where
И е
the
повече
idea of,
на
like, well, let's have multiple
таблета,
trees.
защото са...
And when we want to expand
По-високи
on the Paragon
частоти, да.
system, we'll add additional trees. Each tree provides players with some choice of where they want their Paragon points to go, and the system is completely extensible anytime we want to raise the Paragon cap. But that's me talking as a designer.
Аз имам
Blood,
50
you
гигабайта
experienced
свободни на
it
телефона, така че
from a
Владко.
player's point of view, and also as someone
I
who's
think
done a
it's
lot
okay.
of Paragon in
Имаш
Diablo
достатъчно
3.
за Immortal,
What
да.
was your reaction to the Paragon system?
Пък
I
и
was
веднъж като го
blown away
инсталираш не
by
ти
the
трябва.
choice. You can specialize in
Nah, man,
like
I was thinking the
4
same
or
thing,
5
like,
different trees.
who gave him that blue
And then
eye?
with each tree, there's like these, like, I don't know what they're called, the circle and square nodes within the tree. So there's like traits and other abilities that you can earn.
The circles are the ones that give you bonuses all the time, no matter what tree you have picked as being active, and then the squares are the active specializations that give you a special bonus when that tree is selected.
I love to kind of min-max whatever I'm doing in the game. So if I'm doing PvP, I can swap to that tree and get those bonuses.
He likes to min-max?
And then if I'm
What
doing
do you
some
think?
farming, I
Do
can
you
switch
min-max
to like
as
the
well?
treasure hunter tree was my favorite.
Не,
And then
аз го
I can
карам на
get,
каквото
you know,
ми падне
more
пред
bonuses
очите.
doing that
Вие
activity.
endgame,
You know, for me,
endgame
being
тия
able
Craft
to kind of
стримерите, вие
control how my character is
min-maxвате ли
performing.
или
I
какво
mean,
падне?
I'm all about it.
Аз лично избирам
екипираш.
умението с
There is a
най-впечатляващо име и
dungeon
така
now.
си
И-
прави.
You can kind of
и
go
предмета
back
с
in
най-висок
time where
армор.
you fight alongside
Yes.
Cool, and you get to hang out with Tel Rasha. It's kind of like a WoW time walking
Genshin Impact
event. Are you
MMO
guys going to
с
explore
много
this
голям свят,
mechanic
така че
further? Like
там да-
maybe we can, I don't know,
Yeah.
do a dungeon
Висок
with
шанс да е
the
по-голямо.
Sin War or something like that?
Ми със сигурност се
You know, that is a
сравнима.
great call-out,
Все
and
пак е
you're spot on
буквално
with
една от малкото
even
AAA
referencing WoW time
MMO-like
walking
игри на
dungeons.
телефон.
Because that's actually how we've talked about it
How does
internally as
Wonderwall
well, is, hey,
work
the
in
library
this
resulting
phone
cool
nightmare?
is this opportunity for us to like
не
dive
съм
into
сигурен.
the past.
I don't think
You get to
I've come
see
across a one.
how
They just don't
Russia
include it.
and
That's
Vale,
the last thing that-
you know, have this
They just don't
conflict as
include
the
it, that's
player
how it
to
works.
relive it. And we really love the way that World of Warcraft used the Caverns of Time and time walking to further expand the reach of the types of stories that you could tell. So
Колко ми е
no
странно, че Immortal
announcements
получава
today,
Бейл,
but definitely something
а
the team
дяволчите
is excited about.
получават далеца Ривос.
I noticed that every dungeon has like a cutscene. It feels like a full-fledged, normal, like AAA game. It's awesome.
Well, we have a policy that, you know, that relates to the
Като го
cinematics,
изкарат,
but
те
also
още не са
things like
показали
audio
Crusader
design
в Immortal.
that, you
Така
know,
че...
a lot of mobile
Все още
players,
не
they
сме
don't play
виждали
with the sound on. But
end
because this is a
build-ове, защото
Blizzard
все
game, we
още
felt
не е имало
like for
много
those
endgame.
players that do,
А
we
и
have to really
endgame
show
няма.
up
В смисъл
and
стигаме до
show
40
people
лева, което е
that AAA
45
quality
всъщност.
that they've come to expect from
Преди
any of our
max
games.
level.
And so that provides us a
Така
lot
или
of
иначе.
just in, like
Торнс.
excitement, enthusiasm
Тоест
on
с
the team
Н.
because we know we're not holding
Не с
back.
М.
You know,
Ма, сигурно.
not just because this is a
Звучи
mobile
логично.
game we do less. Like we
Звучи като
still,
нещо, което
you know, just
Crusader
take
би
it
имал.
to 11, you know, every chance we get.
Speaking about the story and the characters, we get to hang out with Deckard Cain again. What was it like working with him?
Yeah, that is awesome. It was great to be able to bring Deckard Cain back, being able to work with Michael Goff again. There's a short BlizzConline segment with him. He's such a beloved character in the Diablo franchise, so I'm glad we're able to do that. I love that we're able to visit characters that are fan favorites, but you know, we want to be, you know, we're not just Diablo on mobile, it's a brand new game. And so as part of a brand new game, we've got brand new characters that we want to explore as well. From Skarn, one of your main antagonists in the game. You've also got Zool and Lethis. We're going to be exploring the storylines behind Vala and Josen. Vala, go to the Demon Hunter, being able to learn more about her and her history. We've got all new stories to explore.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I missed Deckard Cain until I got off the boat, like you said. And I'm like, man, yeah, this is awesome.
He's back.
He's like the glue of the franchise almost, you know? It's awesome.
You know, one of our goals was to be a mobile MMO. And one of the ways that, you know, we really focused on is having a cool town hub like Westmarch. I don't know if you felt like Westmarch made the game feel bigger.
Well, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, like there's a hub for everybody to go to, like a little town. But it's way cooler when you get to play it because you're there and you get to see everybody running by. You get to check out everyone's gear, and it does feel a lot more alive. And it became one of my favorite features, I think, overall.
Да, има разлика, но е просто са разхвърлени между
seeing
няколко вендора
and inspecting them, I think, really kind of brings like the game and the community together.
I think one of the best parts is seeing all the different spots in the city where people go for different activities, whether it's leveling up their gear or getting gems slotted in or going to do some rifts or bounties. It's really cool to just watch people sort of like in the traffic, you know, going from here to there. And it feels almost like a living city, right? Where there's a bunch of people just going about their day and it feels very, you know, like you said, like an alive.
Yeah, watching people take group selfies in,
exactly.
In different sections. It was cool, yeah. I enjoyed it.
A central town hub was something that we wanted to do for Diablo 3. Back then, internally, we called it Player Town. And it never quite made it. In game development, you have to kind of pick and choose the features that you're going to incorporate, but I'm super thrilled that we were able to incorporate a capital city into this experience. One of the things I think is special about having a game with a capital town and also just an online game where other players are always around is you really get the sense that the world is real. You know, that like when you close down the app, when you
with the Windows shop,
playing anymore, the world
I actually played it on tablet
without you. And is alive without you. And I feel like having a capital city.
I played the alpha
really,
at home this December.
Now we just need to have like a working bar in Westmarch, and I'll be happy.
There is actually a bar in Westmarch. There wasn't a whole lot of reason to go there during technical alpha, but it's got a whole tavern vibe in there and go hang out.
And to be able to sit and maybe order something or hang out.
There's going to be some reasons for you to swing by the bar later. I think one of the ways that Diablo is really trying to do something new
И двете бяха предоставени
да тестваш. When we talk about the game being
интересно дали има крос прогресия, както има Diablo
2.
Между телефон и таблет?
Между два различни акаунта, един вид. Скоро. Не виждам причина да няма. Нали?
Да, би трябвало да има. Предполагам, няма между екосистемите на Google и на Apple. Но това е... Я някой ме уби току-що.
Speaking of like community, we did a dungeon together on Alpha.
Видяхте ли Рашко, който убих току-що?
Вау,
имаме и в Immortal. Чай, това ще си го превърта. What the fuck, какво ще го видя?
19 и 20.
Let me jump on.
Cool.
And I remember I typed out in chat to you, I was like, hey, Blood, do you want to run a dungeon together? And you said yes. And so that was cool. I was able to jump on. We were able to party up, no problem.
Фейлън точно този.
I'm really
You
glad
guys have
the voice
phones.
chat was
Yep.
there
Same guy.
because
Сега излагал ли е пича? Имате ли телефони? Имате.
How do we get on voice? Like, do we need to like get onto Discord somehow? But since you were streaming the game, I think it all just worked out and all the audio passed through, and that was a good time. I think that was one of my highlights from
Oh, that's awesome. That means a lot.
Принципал дизайнера на
So I gotta
Diablo.
ask you guys, are there any
Човек,
plans
който
for
разбира от гейм дизайн повече от
Controller support is one of the most
целият
requested
Star
things
Citizen
that we
екип
got
взет заедно.
coming out of
Къде
Technical
е?
Alpha.
Прям си
And
газар.
so you are not alone in wanting to be able to sit comfortably and play with a Bluetooth controller. We're actually going to be investigating
Ето,
how we
говорят за
can
controller
bring
support.
controller
Yes,
support in the
thank
future.
you.
And we are
Много
very
добре, много добре.
excited that the community responded so positively to it. And so nothing to announce today, but definitely look for updates on this in the future.
Best
Yeah, the
news.
touch controls are
за
really
тая игра.
good. I would use them for any kind of quick gameplay sessions. You know, when I'm out and about or
Роско,
doing
thank
things.
you за
But,
хоста.
you know, when I'm kind of plopping down for the day, it would be cool to
Рейдвахме
switch to controller mode
Рейдвахме
and
при
kick back.
Спектра,
Did you guys
той
play
прати
in
към
any
теб, ти обратно към
areas
нас.
outside of your home?
Yeah, I mean, one of
Какъв
my
circle jerk
favorite
сме?
experiences is being able to just take my dog out for a walk and
Wyatt is a good guy.
you know,
He's a great
play.
guy,
I
actually.
was,
I think he got put in a really bad spot
Just
that
taking
one
my
time.
dog for a walk. I was at an
And,
intersection, and the PvP
hopefully
event
he'll
in
have
Valfen came
to
up, and I was just like, I'm
tank
gonna
that
do it from
reputation
here.
for just a little
Super
while longer,
convenient to be able
because
to
he
just
doesn't deserve it at all.
play from the park or wherever. I remember Leviathan was joking that, you know, he could play while he was waiting at the doctor's office, and it's almost like, okay, you're up. He said, no, you can go. I'll keep waiting.
5 more minutes.
Don't worry about me.
Wherever I was out, where I could play, you know, comfortably, I was playing Immortal, and it was a cool experience to be able to play it wherever I was and kind of get progress on my account.
What kind of stuff did you enjoy doing?
That was actually my favorite thing about Immortal. Was the amount
този
of
човек
activities
разбира
you
от
could
гейм
do.
дизайн повече от всички
There's
твои
like
идоли в
these
гейм
layers out in the
индустрията.
open world, there's
Не очаквам да го
legendary
уважаваш.
mobs, like there's a
Но
lot,
очаквам
but
да
I think
уважаваш
layers,
себе си
hunting for
достатъчно
layers
да
or like
говориш такива
hidden
неща.
dungeons, it kind of gave me some of those D2 vibes.
What was the max rank?
Да, от вчера гледаме презентациите, които не можахме да гледаме заради конфликти в разписанието на стримовете.
5 definitely requires that sounds like, you know, 10 to 12 hours of grinding a day for a while.
Layers, I mentioned, were one of my favorite kind of activities to do in Immortal. I noticed some of the tile sets look like D3 assets, and are we going to get like a more variety of tile sets in Layers?
In Technical Alpha, we had 2 of those tile sets intentionally, just for that small test. But we plan on adding a lot of diversity and variety to those tile sets, and there should be a difference between what you see in a Rift, which sort of like takes its tile set from a global pool
Знаеш ли
of
какво да
different
чакаш?
things
Дече
you
ето и
can
да
see
пита има ли телефон.
versus like
Не,
a
аз не
layer,
съм
where
фен
a
на тях, аз
layer
нямам
could
никаква
be
представа
inside
какво е.
Biofen or Ashwood Cemetery,
Това е уникално
and the
за теб
layer
този
below
experience.
a cemetery should look different than the layer below a jungle or a frozen
Thank you,
mountain
Камена.
or whatever
Ако
the
имаш видео,
zone
fuck
is. And
yeah.
so we're putting a lot of effort to make sure that there's
На какво
diversity
лог?
there and that it feels
Реч, Тони Бора.
connected to the
Ще
world
разкажа
above
като
it.
имаме пауза.
That's really cool. So
Okay,
if it's like
sure.
a foresty type zone, the layer is going to have like a foresty, mossy type dungeon to correspond with it. That really kind of increases the immersion. I like that idea.
We want you to remember where you are in
То
the
некои
surface
напротив качи
world
някъде.
as you dive down
Да,
into
линч.
the layer. But that by
Извинявай,
no
не те
means
разбрах.
limits
Не,
the
не,
amount of
кралец
diversity and like rich art we're able to put into each of these tile sets.
Did you expect players to grind so much in general? Like with
Роска, ние сме
all
го
the
коментирали
Paragon
преди
that
с Боби,
we
но
grinded and all the
това
gem levels and everything?
хора, които
There were
са
some people
преди
who
всичко
seriously
професионални
went
гейм
ham on
девелопери,
it, for
дизайнери и
sure.
така
Like, it
нататък,
was
да
pretty-
говорят на публична
pretty
сцена
impressive. And
е нож
I mean,
с две
I took it
острията.
as
От
a
една страна се доближават до
You know, when
публиката си, но те
people
не са
want to play
тренирани
the
да
game that much, it means that
управляват
we've
публична
made something
ситуация
special
по
that
начин,
people
по
want
който
to enjoy.
може би
I think it
професионален
speaks
презентатор
doubly
би успял
so
да
when
я
it's a
представи
limited
и
technical alpha,
Да, това не са
for
PR-и,
a
в
short
смисъл не са
time,
маркетинг
and
хора.
принципен
progress isn't carrying
маркетингов
forward.
провал BlizzConline от
For people to
2018
play
преди
an
всичко и има
RPG
доста уроци за
and invest
учене,
time in a
що се
character
отнася
that
до
is
него, но
ultimately going to be
конкретно
depleted really means that
девелопера
they're just
да
having a lot of
отнася
fun doing it.
такъв
And that's great to
такава
see.
откровена
I
омраза
was
е
really
излишно. В смисъл,
surprised by
той е реагирал
how
не
far
на
people
място
got
в момент, в който е бил
challenge
под
race.
огромно
Like, to see
напрежение,
that
нещо с
was
което
just
всеки в този
awesome
чат може да
because,
се
you know, I don't think
идентифицира
anyone
поне за 2
internally had
минути.
gotten that far naturally without using,
по принцип се промотира тези хора да говорят, защото това са хората, които знаят най-много за игрите си. Не е готино да ти излезе PR и да ти говори някакви заучени неща и да ти казва exciting gameplay, emerging gameplay, някакви такива. Искаш да излезе гейм директор и да ти каже, гледай сега, това, така. Нали? Но това са хора, които нямат характер за публично говорене. По същия начин като Шон Мъри от No Man's Sky. Той не е маркетинг човек. Той ще отиде ще говори, което той знае да говори.
What do they talk about? What kind of gear or legendaries do they want? Like that informs us a lot. Just watching you guys play.
Малко видях endgame, Владко. Видях то в дъчана, че влачиха мобове. И това изглеждаше мега яко, искам да кажа. Най-после малко по-задълбочен геймплей виждам.
Да, така, както и в Diablo 3 със сигурност.
Точно като Diablo
3. Във всяко Action RPG имаш елемент на хърдване на мобовете, нали, да ги влачиш на удобна за теб AOE групичка. Докато Action RPG-тата са структурирани по начина, по който е модерно за жанра, това ще бъде неизменна част от геймплея. Независимо дали става въпрос за Diablo или друго Action RPG. Да, наистина Камен е втори, който коментира цифрите, но интересното е, че е в позитивен коментар, доколкото чета, така че дано е опция. Ако искаш да си гледаш цифрите, да можеш да си ги гледаш.
Може би ги намалят, но на телефона няма да се вижда толкова.
During the Q&A, it was asked if the game would ever be coming to PC, and I had probably not the best
Ето тук го адресират, ох милички.
And what went through my mind is I really wanted to be able to say, hey, we're making Diablo 4. And that's not something that we could share at the time. An inappropriate remark came out instead. And I am glad that now hopefully people can see, there's more Diablo on its way. We have a lot of love for the Diablo universe, and our goal ultimately is to provide more Diablo options for more people.
Yeah, so I mean, I was there at BlizzCon, like I said, in Ground Zero, and it was tough. I mean, it was really hard with all the, passion at an all-time high from the community. It was tough to stream it, but I always believed in Immortal. It was so much fun when I played the demo, and
Thank you.
I was like everybody else. I wanted D4 to be announced, but with all the hints and you guys saying that there was multiple projects in the works, I guess that was my glimmer of hope that I was holding to. And so I was able to look at Immortal, I guess, a different way, because in the back of my mind I knew like
предпочитат да са негативни. Не дори скептични. Не такива. И ще чакаме, ще видим. Негативни. Това е супер зле. Дявол Норд напуснаха и сега Дявол на Стро.
We got feedback, and I think that really sustained the team through that time, is for the people who played it at BlizzCon, there was a lot of feedback that said, this is good. I think the game kind of spoke for itself, and playing is believing for this game. And I'm looking forward to the future where we can get the game in more people's hands so they can see for themselves.
Сайзи, те влачат предимно NPC-та, които са зомби брейн, така да ги наречем.
Да, пък и наистина грешния жанр, в който да търсиш изкуствен интелект. Екшен RPG-тата са грейн.
Дори в Diablo 3 има доста NPC-та, които имат достатъчно различни видове геймплей, като кастери, чарджери и всякакви такива.
And we'll announce more about that very soon.
So you're saying all the
Иначе за
stuff that
развитието
we've
на изкуствения
experienced
интелект
is
в
still
игрите,
not
мисля,
the
че е
end
наболял
game that you
проблем
have
във всички
planned.
жанрове и на мен ми е такова. Нещо, което ми е на ума.
В интерес на истината, вметат се към Halo, противните са ад-вари. Всъщност са много тегави, докато не им учиш патърните. Halo.
The challenge alone is not the sole end game of Immortal. We have a lot more planned.
The level cap of the technical alpha was set at 45.
For
the release game, we're planning for it to be 60. So, at 45, we wanted there to be something for players to do, which is why we have the challenge rifts. But the tech alpha was really focused on the early leveling experience.
логове
in
на
game
лайк.
systems.
Охо.
There are
Ясно
whole
разбрах
new other
накратко за
systems
какви
that
логове
we
става
still have
въпрос.
planned for the Elder game.
Well, I had a blast playing the alpha. I had an awesome time hanging out with you guys today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, Bloodshed, thanks a lot.
Yeah, Blood.
Редуктивно е със сигурност. В смисъл, не искам да кажа, че не трябва да има
absolute
изкуствен
It's been
интелект в
amazing
екшен
to be part of
RPG-тата и по принцип има, но
BlizzConline, and I look forward to what's to come.
не го очаквам от този жанр със сигурност.
Така, Влади, давам ти втория линк. За жалост така сме набутали всичко, че трябва много скоростно да минем през всичко, за да минем през информацията. Но тук можем да скипнем една много голяма част. За щастие.
This has allowed the maw
Добре,
to
ми
grow
казваш,
in
броиш
great
ми
proportions,
го правим.
something we've been able to
Сега ще
physically
ти кажа
see.
откъде започваме. Вчера гледахме синематика, скипваме и него. Така. Стартираме от, да речем, 11.00. Или 10.59.
Вау. Holy shit.
Да, всичко това, Влади, малко ме ядосаха, че толкова много излишни думи, приказки имаше в 9.1 кастчето. Но няма значение, ще минем през него.
11.00 съм.
На 11.00. Добре. Ами давай пак на 3. 1, 2, 3.
The jailer. Within the maw, we will uncover brand new, never before seen areas. We'll also be fighting off
Точно
some
тук започва
new and never
информацията.
before seen enemies, of course, and naturally be uncovering some brand new maw-themed rewards.
Thank you за фоллоуа,
while we're
Sushi
at it.
337.
Our return to
I
the
love
maw
sushi too.
includes not only a chance for us to push back against the
Трябваше да си
dark
избера една
designs
храна
of the
до края на
jailer
живота.
in areas that previously
Може би щеше да бъде
were very
суши.
forbidding for
Има
us, where
достатъчно
we
вариация
really
в
weren't able to spend very much time
семейството
there.
си, че да
Having
ме
a secure,
изхрани
solid
до
foothold
живот.
with all four
fucking
covenants
delicious.
allows us to push
Rice,
back against
motherfucker.
that oppressive force.
Само
We'll be able
картофите
to
ще ми липсват.
stop the eye of the jailer in its tracks,
живот.
exploring
Ако трябва да ям
areas that
суши
we were
така.
unable to explore before. And our mounts will once again even hear our call within the maw. The maw will not only include some areas that we have seen previously, now with our new allies of the Covenants changing things up there, but also some never before seen sections. Let's talk for a second about the largest of those sections. So in the finale of that cinematic, you saw that the jailer had sent his chains off out of the maw and into the darkness. What he found there, that landmass shown there at the very end of that
Ето сега
cinematic,
обяснява,
is a
че
landmass known as Korthia.
е
And it
намерил
makes up the
нова
largest
маса.
new section of the maw.
Yeah.
Korthia.
Korthia is an ancient space
Това е
that
една
was
от двете
lost
нови
in the
зони.
in-between. It has its own strange
само не я
creatures and
показва за сега.
wildlife that inhabit it. But it's also inhabited by some of the characters we've previously seen
Интересно.
in Oribos, including the attendants and the protectors.
Готино,
and
че
some of their
развиват
city structures.
Oribos лора, защото той в
Very
момента е
similar
най-празен.
to Oribos. It is filled with mysteries, the likes of which the Shadowlands has yet to uncover. It is these ancient mysteries that the jailer is truly after. The secrets of this strange group that we've only barely hinted at, known as the First
говори
Ones.
много
Heading
приятно.
back into this area
Много добре
will allow
разказва.
us to explore
Но
all
по
of
този
these
начин
new
има по-малко
sections,
детайли, което е.
entertain new content, meet new allies, and face off against new foes. And in addition, we will also see some brand new rewards. Some of the new rewards we'll find within the maw include this maw-themed undead horse and a maw hand mount that is actually a giant severed
Това
hand of
вляво
domination that you'll ride on the wrist section of
ръка
in a really
маунт.
creepy and cool
Вчера не го
manner.
загрях.
And of course, there
Fucking
will be
cool as shit.
maw-themed
Ако
battle
бях
pets
Demon
to
Knight.
collect as well, including your very own
Yep,
minion
Demon
of
Knight.
domination.
Още
But
си
our
мисля за
true
дявол,
purpose
съжалявам.
within the maw is not just to collect
имам
battle pets. That's just a part
Масивна
of it.
ерекция в момента.
The true purpose of bringing all four of the covenants together within the maw, of course, is to be taking the attack directly to the jailer's doorstep. The central area where the jailer has holed up with all of his main minions is going to be our focus here as we raid the Sanctum of Domination.
Рейчето със Силван.
The Sanctum of Domination will be a
Коня е
10-boss raid,
Окей.
and you'll finally
Пък е
be able
кон,
to
смисъл.
face off against
Я,
the
има около
terrible terrorist
90.
that I'm sure has kicked you out
на
of
този етап
Targas
какво да направят
more
с кон,
times
дето
than
да
you
е
want to
баси
mention at
майката,
this
нали,
point.
вау,
You'll be able to take all of your
коня.
allies and take the fight directly back to it. We'll also be facing off against the creature that is the actual eye of the jailer. and figure out really what is the Jailer's eye here. Those of you that were fans of the lore of the Titan Keeper Odin might have some interest in that particular fight. The Jailer's inner sanctum, naturally, is a place where some of the worst souls were sent for the Jailer's personal torment, and we'll be seeing some of those souls here as well. Really looking forward to hearing who you think will show up in the Jailer's personal torment sanctum. Of course, any raid that features minions, servants, and soldiers of the cold dark like this one is going to have to feature our old nemesis, Kel'Thuzad. And finally, the culmination of the raid. At long last, we will be taking the fight directly to Sylvanas Windrunner, the Banshee Queen herself. The finale of this fight is going to change the future of the Shadowlands. But we're not going to spoil that for you today. However, can't wait for you to see what happens at the end. But the Sanctum of Domination is not the only sanctum of the Jailer. We'll be seeing additional updates to Torghast, the Tower of the Damned, including the unlocking of brand new, never-before-seen ways. These wings have a brand new archkit, as well as new floors and new floor layouts, and should feel like something you haven't seen in Torghast up until now. You'll be facing off against brand new foes with dastardly ways in order to stop your ascent, new traps to trip you up, and of course, to help us fight against all of these dastardly minions of the Jailer, brand new game-changing powers will be available as well. Moving on to additional updates within Chains of Domination, fans of the Operation Mechagon Mega Dungeon from our previous patches will be happy to learn that we are once again bringing back the concept of the Mega Dungeon. A Mega Dungeon is an 8-boss dungeon, epic in scale, and always has some unique, interesting loot that you can't find anywhere else. The Mega Dungeon for Chains of Domination is going to be focused around the enigmatic traders that we first met in Oribos, the brokers. The Broker Mega Dungeon is a large broker trading city with portals, an auction house, and various different broker cartels that have made it their home. We're going to be learning more about broker culture and meeting some new and different kinds of brokers that we haven't seen until now. This is an 8-boss dungeon, and in Chains of Domination will be available as Mythic only for now. Within the Broker Mega Dungeon, we will be facing off against brand new broker cartel members, including dastardly broker assassins and 4-armed broker guards. The second half of the dungeon, as we start to exit the broker trading city, will feature a heist section, as we chase a broker with a stolen artifact and plans to use it for his own purposes. As we chase this broker through the heist section, he'll take us through a number of different portals that take us to a lot of different, very varied locations where we fight a number of different bosses. One of these fights, of course, is against none other than an infinite pirate dragon. At first, that needs no explanation. So let's move on to the rewards. The rewards of this Mega Dungeon include things that we will only see within broker culture. Some very special broker pets, including a broker-themed cat. We can capture some of the rats that scurry around within the broker trading city, and we'll get to see one of the pets that the brokers actually use as a currency. These strange worms that they found on another world and have scintillating eyes that are gem-like. It's sort of like a living sign of your wealth for the high ends of the broker cartels. You might be able to purchase one of those within the dungeon or fight enemy to obtain some. And we'll be able to obtain the broker's special and interesting disc mount with a fly around their trading city. In addition, there's going to be a dazzling array of different weaponry for you to collect as well. Now let's move on to updates to some of our covenant systems. We've been fighting hard to gain renown with our covenants, gain soulbinds, and additional conduits. We'll be expanding upon a lot of these systems. Some of the ideas that we're thinking about include adding additional conduits, different conduit types, and expanding the soulbind system. Our general goal here is to give you more options in terms of how you specialize your character within your covenant and how you gain additional power levels. We're very early on in the ideation phase here, and we'd love to hear from you. If you want to take to the forums and tell us how you would like to see your power grow within your covenant. Patch 9.1 also brings with it flying.
Jailer.
Something that we mentioned a while back, and we're sticking to it. There's no rep grind associated with
Phase
flying.
one,
You
да.
simply just
Чакам
need to
малко да
continue
скоча сериозно
completing
обратно в
activities
тази
in your
игра.
covenant,
Искам.
and your covenant story chapters will
Ето
unlock
това е
flying for you
експанжена. Главно
automatically.
е. Ето
But
това
we're
трябва
not
да е
simply
експанжена, на
going to
който
be
трябва да
unlocking
приключи лоу,
flying in
питате мен.
Chains of Domination. No, we
Давам им
want to
още
do
един
everything
експанжен
heavily
време, ако
covenant
това ще е
themed,
експанжен.
because it's all about working for your covenants. So completing the flying will also unlock a new specialized flying mount
Така,
specific
всеки
to your
Covenant
covenant.
получава Flying Mount,
For the
Влади,
Kyrians,
обели очи и сири.
activating
Не гледай
anima
чат.
to the eternal
Гледай
forge
какво
has
става.
allowed your stewards to once again produce this powerful flying centurion that hasn't
Много
been seen
мисови.
in ages. For the Night Fae, activating wild seeds with anima that were thought lost to the drought will reawaken our powerful ally in the wolf serpent.
О,
For
It's
the
a
Maldraxians,
noodle pup.
the Necrolords naturally go to their natural
Noodle
environment, throw a saddle on one of the giant corpse flies buzzing around their backyard, and send
Муха,
that on
Влади,
into
най-после
combat.
има
There's
муха
one thing
маунт.
that you do know, they're not going to be
Нищо,
afraid of
че
the
е
stench of death.
shitfly, you
And
know.
for the Venthyr, activating anima
И ето
within
това, което ти ще имаш,
Revendreth
Влади.
has allowed us to
Защото знам, че това
empower
ще
these stoneborn
гониш.
brutes, giving us anima-infused stoneborn allies as
Oh
our
my
brand
God,
new
да.
flying mounts. But that's not all. Continuing to advance your covenant and your renown will
Просто си
also
ми
unlock a
черно-бял,
set of
Влади.
cosmetic armor.
Get
Cosmetic
it?
armor sets can be worn
Get
by
it?
any armor
the
type,
emo goth
from
boy in
cloth
me
to plate,
speaketh.
and they can
Не,
be
Влади,
mixed and
защото
matched
филтърът
with
ти е
any of
сив.
your transmog
Yeah.
outfits if you
Okay,
want to
okay.
take just pieces of them,
And steel.
producing a variety
steel.
of different unique outfit possibilities. The cosmetic armor set for the Kyrian is stylized after
Това, което
a
е готино
Kyrian
на този
courier
сет,
who
е, че
might be
раменете
rushing
са
across the
ленти.
fields of Bastion
Това
with a missive.
супер много ме
It's very
кефи.
lightweight, it's very airy.
Най-после
For the Night Fae,
готин
your
нов
cosmetic
уникален
outfit will
шолдър.
be themed around the forest defenders
Може
and
най-сетне да
includes many
косплейвате Kid
natural
Icarus
wildlife
в
elements,
WoW.
including the horns of the great
Много
stag
готина
and
маска.
the leaves of the various flora around Ardenvale.
Окей, Night Fae
As you
броните
can
не
see,
са
the
моето
colors
нещо,
here
but, you know,
actually
на
themed
който
after
му
the seasons as
плава
well.
лодката с
For the
Night Fae.
Necrolords, we
Аз
went
просто
all the
имам
way back
всички
to
Влади.
the
That's how you
Warcraft
do
3
it. Просто
initial
имам всички.
idea of the Necromancer in this classically inspired
абсолютно
Necromancer
нищо
set, updated
Не
with
играеш, защото няма
Necrolord
време.
colors. Everybody who's a
Аха,
Necrolord
фаун,
will
изиграх
finally
Assassin's
get to
Creed,
also
играх
have a
Halo.
little bit of Necromancer in them as well. And finally, for the Venthyr,
Фана
no
Necrolord на
Venthyr
немския филм.
transmog set would
Мисля, много
truly
странни
be
шолдъри
complete
за това, което
Ето ги
without
ги
a
вентърите.
правят.
just
Всъщност
waiting
и това
for the
няма
next
ти
Venthyr
харесва чак
fancy
толкова.
party to break out. Venthyr players will be able to obtain these fancy outfits for whenever you need to
better.
head off to
Но
a
поне имат няколко...
Chains of Domination will
Поне има
also
два
herald the
отделни
beginning of
предмета.
Shadowlands
Да, да,
Season
да.
2, where we will be seeing the addition of a brand new Domination-themed affix for Mythic
Това не е кой
Plus.
знае колко
An
интересно сега.
item level
За
increase
сезон 2.
across the board in terms of
изключим
available
новият
item
PvP
levels that you
маунт,
can pick up by doing
който е
just about
прекрасен.
anything in the Shadowlands. We'll also be seeing the beginning of PvP Season 2. And something special in this PvP season that we're looking for is an honor talent refresh. The idea here is to take a look at some of our
Работят PvP
unused or
талантите, което е
underutilized
готино.
honor talents and freshen them up
Nice.
a bit, change things around in terms of the PvP metagame. We'll also be seeing the introduction of seasonal rewards. These include both brand new colors of the Gladiator and Mythic Plus achievement mounts, as well as our new Vicious mounts. In this case, the Vicious mount is
Руско просто не разбираш.
The Gorm.
Ето го, ето
The
го.
Gorm was already pretty vicious, so slapping
My
a couple
big
of
boy.
pieces of armor on
My
that
big boy.
and sending them out into combat was a natural thing for the forces of the Alliance and Horde to do.
Прекрасно.
Харесват ми
Let's take a second
малките
to
кегове
recap
от двете страни.
everything coming
Да,
at you
много
in
бяха
Chains of
готини.
Domination. First, we've got some major
Кегове
story
или,
quests, including
War
a
Drums
lot of
бяха
the
това също? Май
main
кегове бяха.
characters of the
Кегове
Shadowlands
бяха.
that are centered most specifically around the designs and plans of the
В
jailer
следващия
and his
рейд,
attacks on our allies in our covenants.
Тиерите,
We will be taking
сетовете,
revenge by
ще
taking the
бъдат
fight directly to the
сегашните
jailer in the
легендарки,
Maw
които
and
са
forming a
unused като
permanent presence
трансмози.
there with all four covenants.
И ще
We'll be
дойдат нови
exploring some never
Jailer
before seen
team,
sections of the
Domination
Maw,
team,
including this
оръжие,
new area
което
known as
означава
Porthia and its
мега
various
BDS оръжие, Влади.
mysteries. We
Много
will
badass.
be taking the fight directly to the jailer himself in the Sanctum of Domination raid, which has the final boss as
Келфузад,
Sylvanas Windrunner.
Силванка.
And we'll be making updates
Дракон
to
Дракон звучи
Torghast,
OP face.
including some never before seen wings, floors,
Аз бих
creatures,
искал да
and
видя
powers.
мека Келтузад.
We'll be
Не
introducing a new
Келтузад, а
mega
мека...
dungeon themed around the brokers as a floating broker trading city with new bosses to fight there and some very unique loot to obtain.
Как се
We're
казваш
going to be
демона?
expanding upon the conduits and soulbind systems and adding additional
Expression
choice
на
and power
Архимонт.
to your presence within your
Другата ръка на
covenant.
Саргерас.
And alongside that, we'll be seeing some brand new Covenant rewards, including Covenant-themed flying mounts,
Имаше К.
Covenant-themed cosmetic armor sets, both of which will be available in a variety of different colors to collect. And finally, we'll be seeing the launch of Shadowlands
Мисля, че
Season
се
2
случиха
and
твърде много
everything
неща
that
днес
entails.
с главата ми,
Thanks
че...
everybody for checking out our Shadowlands
И вече
update.
съм
We've
напълно
got a lot of
блокиран.
really cool stories to tell still here in the Shadowlands, and we can't wait to get
Архимонт
this
е
content
единият
into your
лейтенант на
hands.
Саргерас.
From
Другият
everybody on the
лейтенант на
World of
Саргерас,
Warcraft
който сме
team,
били
we
два
hope
пъти,
you enjoy Chains
Килджейдън,
of
Тинкион
Domination,
Гейм.
and we'll see you in the
Мека
Shadowlands.
Килджейдън видях Харстоун. Мека Килджейдън с някакво метално окото.
Найс.
Така. И това приключихме. С това приключихме.
The Deceiver.
И сега, гайс, сега е момента да кажете какво ви се гледа повече. Diablo QA или WoW QA. По принцип има малко повече логика да изгледаме WoW QA, защото той е с 20 минути по-дълъг. Защото ако изгледаме Diablo QA, след това 20 минути ще се чешваме. И се чешваме какво правим. Но поне с това приключва всичко, Влади, и можеш да лягаш. Можеш да легнеш в 11:30. Holy shit.
Holy fucking shit. Нямаш представа
Holy
колко
fuck.
ще стихме правя тези новини.
Тогава, ако искаш да изгледаме WoW QA сега, защото така
Да,
ще се нареди по-правилно, иначе 20 минути ще
Съгласих се.
загубиш. Окей, добре. Ние ще изгледаме и двете God Mode, едно след друго. Въпросът е
Да.
в какъв ред. Останалите сегменти са Hearthstone QA, който за жалост с Влади просто няма какво да говорим за Hearthstone. Има Art, Рено Джаксън, пак Hearthstone. Има Where It All Started, The Blizzard Arcade Collection, Rebroadcast. Има Overwatch League, Shock vs. The World. Това е PvP, някакъв турнир най-вероятно. И In-Game User Generated Content Showcase, което са StarCraft Arcade, User Maps, Warcraft 3 Custom Games и така нататък. User Generated Content. Да, ще направим първо лола и след това ще минем към Diablo.
По никое време ще има и Diablo кампания на Critical Role, но това е нещо, което си гледаш, а не коментираш, така че...
Да. BlizzCon.com, Влади, идваш и цъкаш от там, за да сме на един таймер.
Да, там съм дори в момента.
Супер.
Какво ти гласи таймера точно сега?
19, 18, 17.
На 3 минути, нали?
На 3 минути.
Окей. Дови си малко напред от мен.
Добре. Но за щастие в YouTube няма нужда да рефрешваш, можеш просто да цъкнеш на лайв знака и ще знаеш, че си лайв. За разлика от 57, 56, 55.
Вау, днес сме в синхрон. Holy shit.
И защото гледаме на едно място, Влади. You jackass.
А ти си този, който трябва да гледа на алтернативни места. Аз си бях на сайта на Blizzard още вчера.
Аз бях на сайта на Blizzard вчера, Влади.
Аз също. През цялото време. Просто бях една идея по-напред. Как ти казах, просто съм една идея по-близо до Blizzard от теб.
We are watching the Diablo thing, but first we're going to be watching the WoW panel because there's 20 minutes, otherwise we're going to have to just spend 20 minutes doing nothing.
We're gonna watch the WoW Q&A and then watch the Diablo Q&A recording.
Да, правихме рейче, Влади. Някои от хората в чата се похвалиха вече. Направихме едно кратко, бързо рейче. Само да си изчистя челото от дупки. И събрахме се 11 човека, успяхме да се съберем. И направихме 9 от 10 кеселнатрия за 3 часа и половина. И прогресирахме до към 50% на Денатриус за 5 опита. Не, само 10 бос.
На нормал?
На нормал, да. Като си имам преди, че за първи път се събираме като група и повечето хора дори не се познаваме. успяхме да си... Успяхме да one-shotнем половината босове и да two-shotнем другата половина босове. Нито един бос не ни направи втори лайп. Освен... И то някои от лайповете бяха буквално в самото начало. Два от лайповете бяха литерали в самото начало, защото някаква механика изобщо не сме усетили как да бъде и просто директно отивахме в локва и лайпваме, а не някакво липса на скил or something. Много добре мина, много съм доволен. Утре май ще се върнем пак, за да го довършим, защото Денатриус едва ли е повече от час води.
Да.
What are you doing? С стената си.
Сори, секунда, извинявам се.
Цвят ли искаш да си пуснеш?
Не. Нищо важно.
О, thank you, Spectra. That's very kind.
Кой беше рейд лидер?
Аз си Камен бейчка.
Браво, Камене.
Здрасти, Мани.
Йо,
Точно на
ман.
време. Точно на време за лол. Давах на котка и храна. Първо лол, после дявол. Да, първо лол нив, така че имаш един час да не държиш като бот отворена. И след това е дявол.
Ето ви флекс номер 2. Искам ви в чат. Дори не знаех, че ме има. Бас яко.
For nigh on to 15 years, been paying a lot of attention to this game, and
Никой не ни е
big
казал.
surprises to the world
Не
of
съм
the
се намирал
development team
в
that
бет.
I'm here to ask the
Много
questions
готино.
submitted by the
Но
wild
много
players
малко
around
бях
the
в тази
world.
зона,
So
затова не съм се виждал.
thank you so much for submitting your questions. There's some amazing ones in here. Can't wait to get to them. I'm sure they're used to getting questions from me by now, so we're going to go ahead and get started here with announcing who our team is. Speaking of the WoW development team, we have 6 of their
Кефи ме
leaders
Айон преди
with
колко
us
време е
today.
записал
Executive producer John Haidt,
вчерашния
game director Ian
фид Влади, защото беше с повече коса, помниш ли? Сега се подстригал.
art director Eli Cannon. We have lead narrative designer
news.
Steve Denuser
Абсолютно.
and
Final
radio
запис.
software engineer Brian Birmingham. Thanks
Скандал.
all for being here. All right, let's get started. It has been a very exciting con so far, and I'd like to start with Steve.
Да, може да ме
A lot
махна
of
през
players
теб.
want to know more about Sylvanas.
Съжалявам, че
and
няма.
when,
Ибе, как ще махнеш?
today was
Мага,
shocking
се
for
извади.
many of us. In your first looks at the Chains of Domination, we learned that she's going to be a boss in the next raid, and the Sanctum of Domination is what that's called. And in the cinematic for the patch, Anduin went a little nuts. Everybody wants to know more. Can you elaborate on what we saw and tell us more about what you have in store for us with these characters?
A little nuts. Wow. Well, yeah. So the story of Anduin and Sylvanas and their relationship with the jailer, that triangle is really foundational to the story of Shadowlands. And it's
Няма ли да го
something
пуснете на
obviously that
индивидуално
unfolded from the very first moments
Мисля,
of
че
going
може
into
да го
the
вземеш
mall,
само него.
all the way
Той май
through our
безплатен
adventures into
отделно.
Torghast, trying to
Аз го
free
имам.
our allies. And it really culminated in the 9.0 time frame.
Мисля, че
with
тази
that,
колекция е за конзолите.
that cliffhanger moment of
I think.
Sylvanas
Не съм
holding the
сигурен.
sword out in that
А на
pose
PC трябва да вземеш...
Anduin challenging her.
Аз просто
you
ги
know,
имам
saying,
вече. Не.
the power's in your
поне
hands, what
така
are you going
помня.
to do with it?
Мисля, че имам
And
старите
we
трите.
wanted to leave it as a cliffhanger there, but not for too long. And so it's awesome for BlizzConline to have that chance to now
Приеми,
show
че
you what
колекцията струва
happened.
20 евро и
And
всичко
so
останало
we
са...
learn what happened, right?
безмислени
We
бонуси
see
за
that
теб.
Anduin was in fact dominated, and we understand now
Но да разбирам, да.
why
В смисъл,
the
очевидно.
jailer was looking for
Влади.
someone with those
Не е
qualities.
фрезното
They
по начин,
needed to
по който
be
така.
someone
Да.
who could
Anduin
walk
was
in the front
dominated
door of
by,
Bastion
actually.
and meet the requirements of that. So they needed to be that hero. They needed someone with
Was
Anduin's heart to be able
dominated.
to do what he did. But of course, Anduin wasn't in control of his actions there. And so we see him attack, speaking with the jailer's voice. But in that
Днес нямам
moment,
субтитри,
we do
for some fucking reason.
see,
Защо нямам
as
субтитри?
the kind of sigil is
И аз
drawing
нямам.
out from the
Може би
Archon,
това все пак е на
we
живо.
see that moment where Anduin does regain some control, and he's horrified by what he's doing. So, you know, that tells us that Anduin's still in there. He's not gone by any means, but then we see the jailer's influence kind of tighten the
На живо ли?
leash
Я да ги
again.
питаме.
And
Game
have
shut
to
up.
complete his mission, which is to bring that covenant sigil to the
Йонко.
jailer, and we find out
Йонко
that
ли ще му
that's the
викаме в
key
България
that
на
he needs.
господин Хаджи
And as we
Костас?
play through
Yonko
Chains of
Haji-
Domination, we'll find out
Hajikostas.
more about
Sure.
what that entails and how
Да.
that fits into
Yonko.
the jailer's ultimate plan.
Лайф ли си
There was
може?
this moment when that was happening, when you just described it, when Anduin kind of comes to himself again. looks horrified about what he's done, and then the jailer remotely sort of amps it up again, and you see those runes on his armor kind of ignite, and he goes back into that sort of place that we just saw him in. And my question is,
Но нещо, което предполагам, че е някакъв
известен
community проект, този The Instance. Не съм го чул, аз и не следя.
Да, мисля, че е подкаст на Джон Хайт, мисля, че е продюсър на...
Well, there's a couple things going on there. So there's number one, there's just the look on Uther's face, which I've already seen other memes about, and that's awesome. But you see what his hand does, he reaches up and he touches that wound that's on his chest, the wound that was made by a weapon of the Maw. And so on some level, Uther recognized that power, and I'm sure it was not lost on him as well that there was this kingly figure walking in with long blonde hair, and that certainly stirred some memories in him as well. So all of those details, those are the things that we just pour over as we're creating these cinematics, and we have an awesome cinematics team. Taryn Greger and his team is doing phenomenal work. I think the quality of what they've done in Shadowlands in particular has just been amazing. The little nuances. And so you see those moments of Anduin being horrified. You see when Sylvanas looks at him and kind of is in her eyes is pondering what's going on. So even though we find out that she did the thing that she did, it's clear that there's a lot more going on the surface, and that will be explored more fully throughout the course of Chains of Domination. And yeah, it does lead to that final conflict within the Sanctum of Domination, the Jailer's stronghold, where Sylvanas is the last boss of the raid. And not to give any spoilers, but what I will say is that confrontation, I can say that I think it's going to be one of the most epic moments in our rating, because it has so much story behind it, and we've spent so long now getting to know Sylvanas, seeing all these facets of her, the hero, the ranger general, the banshee, now this Maw-empowered form that was able to go to the top of Icecrown and throw the frozen throne at Bolvar. All of those facets will come into play in this encounter, and it's not going to be a simple matter of walking in there and playing our swords against Sylvanas. There's a lot of story wrapped up into that, and it's going to be a super exciting confrontation.
Maybe she'll have a moment that I looked at. She hasn't had anything done to it since it got cut. I hope she's okay.
You should count the number of characters in Shadowlands who are carrying one kind of scar or another, because it's a lot.
Малките стори синематици, неговия почерк. Не знам дали си внушал, но виждам малко от начина му на разказване на истории. Звучи правят при Diablo Iga едновременно този човек, който може да говори. Факт, да. Нали това му беше репутацията в индустрията? The Closer. Род Ferguson, The Closer. Той поема започнати неща и ги буквално ги стяга в... по начин, който е голен за релиз. Това не в лош смисъл на думата, просто че стикова по...
Известен е като Closer, защото това е официалната и
в индустрията, знам.
Great question. So I'm going to do my best to explain this simply, because we weren't able to get into a lot of the details. So for you, I'm going to give you an example of how it's going to work. In my case, I'm going to use my very original character named Holly on Wormrest Accord. And I've got a level, we'll assume I don't play a lot of alts. Let's just say I have 2 characters. So I've got a level 60, and when I log in on pre-patch, I will log in at that moment in time. We are taking a snapshot of the character when the servers are brought down at
в момента миналия въпрос беше за историята и говориха за Anduin и за Sylvanas. В момента въпросът, той се появява на целия екран, не знам дали забеляза спектър, беше за злато и за предмети, как се местят, когато минеш от Classic Vanilla към Classic Burning Crusade.
So if I select my level 30, also originally named Halia character, and I decide, okay, this is my character, she's 30, I'm going to go to Classic Era and continue leveling up and enjoying my experience in Classic with my friends, I select Classic Era. So what that's going to look like for me on Warm Rest Accord that's moving on into Burning Crusade Classic is that character will look inactive. Then I will go to the Battle.net app, I will install Classic Era, then I will log into Classic Era to Warm Rest Accord, the same server, and then I will be able to play Halia. I will have the same gold on both. I will have the same friends list on both. Everything will be completely the same. And then I will also have the option to play Halia on both. I can pay a fee and activate my clone on Burning Crusade Classic in that case and play both. And they will both have the same gold amounts that we had in the snapshot, same friends, etc. So it should feel the same and feel seamless. We're taking
това е информация от вчера, единствено не се знае колко е този фи, за който говорят, за да имаш героя и в двата класика.
To make that happen, and the first thing I thought of when it was announced was, all right, how are they going to handle this?
Обикновено $15.
That want to stay in vanilla forever, and there are some that clearly want to keep moving forward. Who knows how forward that ends up being in the future, but for right now, for Burning Crusade, it running through my head was all these ideas I could think of that you guys might try to make those people happy or to keep them happy where they are. And it sounds like this is the right way to do it. You guys feel like you've explored as much as you can, or I guess the game's not out, so maybe there's still time to explore more and get feedback, but you feel pretty good about how that's going to launch in that state.
I think we feel pretty good, but of course beta will tell us a lot more, so that's coming around the corner pretty soon. And we'll be looking for feedback on some of the decisions we have made, and of course where we can, we'll improve it and make it the best possible experience as we can. We do expect the majority of players are going to go into Burning Crusade Classic, so we are putting a lot of effort on both sides to make it as smooth as possible so that you can just jump in and play.
Brian, I got one for you. It's somewhat related. How will high population numbers be handled in the Burning Crusade Classic? The zones are small, and funneling everyone into a single location has been less than optimal for the release experience anyway. Exactly how do you handle all the bottlenecks as well as the shared mods, questing areas, dailies, that sort of stuff?
Well, to a certain extent, there's a desire, I think, to recapture that challenge of fighting over contested spawns. That's part of the gameplay, but at the same time, we do recognize that this is, you know, a high population of players, and we want to make sure that the experience is enjoyable. And so we have made optimizations and improvements to make sure that the servers are stable. We're able to leverage those to make sure that Garage is stable and make sure we can support high populations of players to make sure that the game is playable. But that experience of like there's a spawn like of a mineral node or a rare herb or a nethering egg, and I want to get that, and someone else is competing with me for it. Like that's part of the goal of the game, and so we don't want to like make any major changes to that. But to the extent that we have higher populations than we normally did, we are willing to make like some targeted changes if we see that there are problem areas. We did this with Black Lotus during Classic, and so if we see that there's some particular problem area, we will take a close look and see if there's something that needs to be adjusted for the fact that we have large populations.
All right, let's jump back into Shadowlands for a second with a question from Volrin from the Deep Pockets Guild. I could use some gold, maybe I need to go there. Will we be receiving more race/class combinations given the customization is such a major theme in this expansion? Ian, let's go to you.
Sure. So, I mean, I think player agency and choice are certainly a major theme of the expansion, and one of the ways that's expressed itself has been customization. We've seen a wider than ever array of cosmetics and other options for players to choose among. But part of what we've also been trying to reinforce and maintain is differences, is a world that consists of different paths, and whether it's everything from class design and the return of abilities to us carving out spec niches, we want to maintain a world where there isn't exact symmetry. Things are cool, but they can be cool in different ways. Now, we've over the years gone back and re-examined race-class combinations periodically. We've certainly reached a much more permissive open place in the modern game than was the case in Classic or Burning Crusade. And for now, we think we've gone about far enough. You know, I think there are cultural differences. There's elements to these races' histories that preclude, for example, you know, certain races from being demon hunters or certain races from being warlocks. And those are not lines we're looking to cross. But it's something we always re-examine going forward. So I think we don't have any plans in the middle of Shadowlands to change anything there, but I would never say never about any of these.
I think some people are surprised that that whether you're wearing cloth or plate, that you're going to be able to wear your Covenant's appearances across the board. That surprised a few people. Surprised me. Does it surprise you that you guys decided to go ahead and make that a little bit homogenous per covenant?
I think that's one of those things that is a reflection of identity that we started really to broach with heritage armor. That was one of the first sets of armor that could be worn regardless of your class, regardless of material type. And when it comes to pure aesthetic expression, we want to give players more and more options there. And if you're someone who's looking for, you're a plate-wearing warrior, but you want more of a flowing robes vibe as you're going into combat, we have gameplay reasons why we don't want to let you transmog the entire range of cloth. But for these cosmetic sets that we introduce, the more options, the better.
The more options, the better.
Cynthia Lee wrote in, I think this is a good one for John. And she wrote interesting, and I think actually I got a lot of this on the side, people saying, hey, you should ask this question. Well, I'm not really going to ask anything that I can't approve first, but turns out a lot of people asked it. World of Warcraft basically got me into the gaming industry, says Cynthia. I am super interested to know, how did your workflow change during this pandemic year? John, how did that go?
Wow, that's a great question. I think maybe first I'd like to start with how it changed us and maybe the way we think of what we do. Like everyone, this all happened very suddenly for us. One day we're working towards getting the next drop for the alpha out and looking forward to getting Shadowlands complete. And then the next day we're all hustling to get quickly get things packed up and move to home. And I think at first it was just sort of settling in and trying to connect with each other through Zoom or, whatever medium we had. We had really great response from our IT team. And then the team kind of reached out to each other, to find comfort and just feel connected in some way. But I think the most important thing for us is as we saw, the horrendous events that were happening around us, and the isolation really that was happening not only to us but to everyone, and certainly to our players. We found a purpose for ourselves. It's like, hey, we can connect people. This is what WoW started with. This happened before social media and Facebook. And we have a way to bring people together, give them something to do, and to pass the time, and hopefully reconnect with friends. And I think it was really cool in a way to know that we were able to do something that was actually going to bring some peace and solace to people in a time that was pretty troubling. And still is, for many folks, and we certainly feel extremely grateful for the ability to do this. In terms of, how other things has changed in our workflow, I think that we're all considering, when this is over, and we can all get back together, what will that look like? And there's some aspects of being at home that we enjoy, For many, the long commutes aren't there, the ability to easily connect with your family and friends is really cool. And so I think we'd like to have some aspect of that, as I'm sure a lot of folks would. The hard parts are really, I would walk down the hall and, Brian's literally 3 doors down from me, and I could walk into the area where he and his team work and ask him a question or tell him some really cool news about what was going on, in terms of our players. And I can't do that now, Or more than likely with me, because I forget, I'll ask a question, I'll go to Ian, and he'll give me a very studious answer, and it's awesome. And then I'll be walking down the hall, like, oh, but you know what? I should have asked him this, and I'll turn right around, and I'll ask him. Now it's like, well, I just hung up the Zoom call. Do I really, call him back up again? And I'm sure, our whole team sort of feels that way. And, especially the new team members, Holly hadn't been with us that long before. We're like, okay, you're now working from home. Don't worry about moving.
Yeah, that must have been something else. All I know is from a player and as a fan and somebody who pays a lot of attention to this sort of stuff, to see you guys launch a full expansion, and not only a big expansion, but one that was expected to break records given how many people were home and an opportunity to get back into WoW and have that happen with so little hitch. I was shocked that day. I said, well, I'll be in queues all day, or it won't be up, or authentication servers will be down. I had all kinds of bad attitudes about what was going to happen. And you guys nailed it, and I'm still not entirely sure how you pulled it off, given all the circumstances you just described. But I assume you and the team are pretty proud of how that all went down.
Amazing team. Scott. I mean, I've been in the industry a lot of years, and this is truly the most professional team I've ever worked with. I mean, they love this game. We all came to the game because we were players and we loved it, and they just plowed on. Especially everyone on the team is awesome. But I think especially in finishing things, you look at our live ops team. Not only did they successfully get Shadow's plans out without a hitch, and we certainly had some hitches. I certainly goofed by predicting the date a little bit ahead of time. But, I think we did the right thing. We took the time to make the game right and really tune that in game. But the live ops team had to support not only that and the shifts that were going on there. But they went ahead and got next Ramos out, for us during that time. Because we didn't want to let down the classic players just because Shadowlands was running behind.
Well, it's a really impressive feat. Speaking of impressive feats, we've got a lot of people wondering what happened to the Archon. And we have one in particular. Arthurius asked, what happened to Archon? Is she dead? Or is she just wounded? Steve, let's throw this one to you.
Yeah, we again, when we're reviewing these cinematics and talking about all the details, we actually I talked about that with Taryn Gregory, our director. I'm like, we should put some indication in there because we want to make it clear that she survives this, and so you see her hand kind of move. It's subtle, but it's there. But yeah, the idea is she does survive this attack. And when you come in to start playing Chains of Domination when it goes live, you basically pick up the story in the aftermath of this attack. And as you can imagine, once the Covenants all hear about it, that's going to put them into action. And so that kind of drives the impetus of the story. And if you think about the implications of the jailer sending someone to acquire the sigil from the Archon, the natural question is, well, who else out there has a similar sigil for their covenant, and are they a target as well? So that's the story that's going to unfold. It's super exciting. We're really looking forward to telling that story.
Excellent. Ian, I've got one for you here that turned out to be one of the most common questions that we received. Saressa from the EU Guild Worst Company says, do you plan to address the faction imbalance soon? Alliance guilds are really struggling right now and use some help. Also, what happened to cause this?
So this is something we talk about a tremendous amount.
Каква е същността на дисбаланса, че нямам идея?
Юн Карвара не е правилно спектър. В момента Влади и всички към 5 играчи са хорди.
This is something that has been a growing issue over the past, really, I would say, 6 to 8 years.
Не, просто бяха с по-добрите решили. Просто бяха с по-добрите решили. Всички минаха хорда. И сега, когато решилите са окей, трябва да отидеш хорда, защото там са повече към 5 играчи. И е вълна, която не спира.
Couple more in Warlords, a couple more in Legion, driven by orc and troll racials that simmed better, that just yielded higher DPS outputs or had specific advantages on fights.
Никой няма да го дадат. Айон е от хората, които е задължително казва, че трябва да има раздял между двете.
Had the all-around racial advantage, but the thing that keeps people on one faction or makes them tempted to move is the social dynamics. It's the feeling that if you're a raider looking to join a top-end guild, there are simply more options, and if your first choice doesn't work out, there's others to explore and fall back on. If you're looking to run high-end Mythic Plus dungeons, there are more people looking to do that content there. And that's a challenging problem to solve because really, we can't undo this movement that's happened over time. And it would take something tremendous to make people who had switched from Alliance to Horde want to suddenly switch back. We'd have to massively buff Alliance racials or something to the point where they were so overpowered that it really felt just bad. It just felt like it was game breaking, and we were really telling people that they should play the other faction. We've looked at where we can offer bonuses for the unrepresented faction where possible, but fundamentally this is a social issue that's likely to need a social solution. We don't have anything super short term that we can do about this, but it is a top priority for us. Personally, in the past, on stage at BlizzCon, Alliance and Horde those are pillars of the Warcraft franchise. Those are pillars of what makes Warcraft Warcraft.
Nobody cares now. Nobody
not
cares.
Something that we can just brush away.
Some of us are pillars.
But we have begun to ask ourselves, where the edges of that tension lie. You know, we have something like mercenary mode in Battlegrounds that allow players to effectively, you know, disguise themselves as a member of the opposite faction and play there to solve what were major Battleground 2 imbalances back in the day. It's essential to us that identity and faction matter in Warcraft, and that years from now, no matter what we do, when we're all together in Anaheim at BlizzCon, and someone, whether it's, you know, the successor of Chris Metzen, whether it's John, whoever, is up on stage rallying, where's the Horde at, for the Alliance, that there are roars coming from the crowd for each faction. If we lose hold of that, we will have lost hold of something precious. So that's the thing that we need to preserve at all costs, but not the cost of people's enjoyment and feeling at home and feeling like they can, you know, form and maintain friendships and WoW and do the content they want to do. So that's what we're trying to navigate. We don't have any specific answer to announce right now, but that's the problem that faces us and how we're thinking about it.
Do you ever see, this is a bit of a follow-up for me, but have you ever seen a swing in either direction, either faction, population direction, due to story elements? Has an expansion come out like, I don't know, Warlords, and everybody suddenly went, ooh, that's very Horde focused, I'm going to be Horde this time and level a Horde tune or whatever. Does that have any impact on this problem of faction imbalance?
A little bit. I think, to be clear, across the game as a whole, faction balance is actually solid, right? Alliance and Horde are relatively even if you're looking at the entire player base. It's when you start to look specifically at Mythic raiding guilds, specifically at the number of groups that are doing Mythic plus a certain level, above a certain level, that imbalances increasingly emerge, but those are also key socially driven activities. We certainly have seen, though, for example, in Battle for Azeroth, more people made cross-faction alts than ever before, because they wanted to see both sides of the story. And there were compelling differences to the war campaigns on each faction, but at the end of the day, that's not going to make you leave the group of friends that you played for a long time, or your long-time guild. There's a bond there, and that bond is essential to Warcraft, World of Warcraft.
Gotcha. Well, Brian, I've got one from you, or for you here. This is from several WoW Classic players, and they ask this. After I play Burning Crusade, when I decide to play my main character additionally on a Classic Era realm at 60, will you have my name reserved for me there, or is there a chance I'll have to rename my character?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think, kind of building on what Holly said, it really is like a snapshot taken at the time that we launched the patch. And so at that point, you do have your name in both places. Of course, part of the reason that we want to make people make a choice here and encourage them to choose the place that they want to go is so that we don't have people grabbing on those names forever. So at some point we might decide to relax that and let those names be unreserved. But if you decide on launch day that you're going to pay for the clone and you want to have that clone in both eras, you'll have your name in both places. One of the things that we are also concerned about, though, is what that looks like in Classic Era, as we expect most players to go to Burning Crusade, and we'll probably have to do something to resolve that. Our current plan is that you'll be able to keep your name, but probably have something similar to our Connected Realms that lets you have the realm name on the end so that we can resolve the conflicts if we have to do any mergers.
Когато искаш и на двата реалма да имаш.
So on some realms there's
може да се продължиш героя Burning Crusade, можеш да го пенсионираш в Vanilla Classic. Ако искаш да остане в Vanilla Classic и да продължи в Burning Crusade, това има някакъв фин, все още не знам какъв ще.
Double dipping. The last time we were all together for a BlizzCon, I talked about Connected Realms and answered a question there, and it was a massive undertaking. Again, on the part of our server live operations team, which I was talking about earlier, to really do a survey of all of the realms across the world, their population trends, their faction balance, and come up with pairings, a series of connections that they worked through. And this is a manual process because we are effectively copying an entire realm's database of characters over to another realm. We have to deal with auction houses, mail, banks, all the rest. And so it's not something where we just flip a switch and make it happen. This is painstaking work. And we were able to address the large majority of the lowest population realms that over the years, we've seen people move to realms to be with their friends. Larger realms tend to be more attractive than smaller ones, and that's an ongoing process. We paused that process when Shadowlands launched for a couple of reasons. First off, launching Shadowlands and having a smooth Shadowlands launch had to be this group's #1 priority. Second, Shadowlands actually had huge effects on server populations. One of the things that made us gun-shy about doing realm connections in the past was that last time we did them was actually right before Warlords of Draenor. We connected a bunch of realms, saw people come back for Warlords, and suddenly these realms that had just been connected now had massive queues and instability to deal with. So we wanted to make sure that we saw how populations were going to settle down, and it's a tool that we continue to have that we will employ when realms feel like their population levels are too low to sustain healthy economies, healthy groups of guilds. But we also want to continue to look at what changes we can make to the game itself to make playing on those types of servers more attractive and just a better place to be, because even if having connections happen is disruptive to those communities and to those realms, even if it's better than feeling like you're isolated. But things like cross-server gameplay over the years have, of course, significantly reduced the burden or the downsides of being in another realm, of being in a smaller realm. But we start to look at things like auction house economy and the rest, and there maybe is more that we could do there.
Well, and I know the answer to this already, and it's eternal to the Q&A of BlizzCon every year, I swear, but you're never going to let Horde and Alliance raid or Mythic Dungeon together, are you? That's just not going to happen. Like, that's never going to be a way to help this or the population issues we talked about before. I'm never getting that.
I honestly would not say never. I think that's kind of what I was getting at with my answer earlier. They would never say never. Why it's essential to retain faction identity. But, for the sake of Rated Arena, from day one, Alliance could fight Alliance and Horde could fight Horde, right? When Burning Crusade launches, when Burning Crusade Classic comes out later this year, that will be a thing and that will be a competitive activity. And that was one of those areas where the gameplay and the need for matchmaking was the top priority and had to be. And so, in an ideal world, all these priorities would coexist, but at the end of the day, an MMO like World of Warcraft is about being able to play with your friends, being able to play where you want to be, and arguably, there's greater strength in the faction identity if you feel like you can truly choose the faction that you identify with, that you feel like most a part of, and not have to sacrifice that because, you need to be with your group or you want to join a higher rated guild.
Ще го правя и аз с него, за да може да е малко
ако се клатим всички едновременно просто.
Не, главата и раменете.
And they're doing it for guild reasons.
Не бе, настрани. Гледаш ли го какво прави изобщо?
Maybe more in that exact same boat around the world. We'd love to do something.
Като AI си, който се опитва да имитира човек.
I wish them well to stay with us. Let's stay with you for a second and let's get into some anima. Reminar from the Ministry of Pain Guild asked this important question. Will our amount of anima be increased later? Is it possible for each of the Covenant Sanctums upgrades to be unlocked account-wide? There's a lot of collectibles across all Covenants, and to get them all would be a gargantuan feat at this point.
Well, so we have been tuning the anima economy since Shadowlands released. We recently hot-fixed anima drops.
Не, това е малко. Пак такъв. Трябва да получаваме по 1000 на ден at this point.
Going ahead in Chains of Domination as there's new world content and as the story advances to make that make sense.
Награди, не говори глупости.
And we're overall looking at the costs. That said, the cosmetics themselves are generally account-wide, as cosmetics tend to be. And the anima system itself is a progression that is designed to span the bulk of Shadowlands.
Как ще го кажеш това, като са заключени при Covenant? Аз няма да правя 9 Nightfall героя, Ионе. Jesus Christ, що говорят такива глупости?
We want people to feel like they can close in on those goals and reach a point where they have everything they want.
Кой ще ни даде пари, краличка? Кой ще ни даде пари?
Петовете са коинс, така или иначе, които са анима. Знаеш ли тя рад?
If that progression isn't happening at a rate that feels satisfying, we absolutely will make adjustments.
All right, we're going to throw a question out here from Besest, who asked a question about Sire Denathrius. As we know, he is an eternal one, and Sire Denathrius is imprisoned by us after Castle Nathria. What will he do? Will we see him again, or is he forever trapped in that sword abyss?
Тъй като technically сме го дефитнали в момента.
This is a kind of fun story because it shows how our best laid plans can kind of adapt based on you know, how the game develops. So I'll give you an example of, like, during Battle for Azeroth, we had intended for this character called Bwansambi to be one of the Loa, to make kind of a, you know, he was going to be there, but you know, it was no big deal. There's a bunch of Loa in there. But once we heard the great ARXCast give his performance as Bwansambi, we were like, oh man, this character's awesome. We need more of this character. And so then we were like, yeah, we could do this with him. We can do this with him. And of course, we carried him into Shadowlands, and he's got this whole dungeon, the other side, that tells more of the story because we love him so much. And so, you know, as we're planning our heroes and our villains for Shadowlands, we're like, yeah, Sire Denathrius, he'll be this boss, Castle Nathri Ray, and he'll kill him, and blah, blah, blah. And then we heard the actor Ray Chase give this performance, and from the very beginning, when we first heard like his performance in the Revendreth animatic, we were just like, well, this guy's awesome. We love Sire Denathrius. And I think probably at some point along the way, as we're getting more VOs coming in, we're having sessions and we're loving them, I probably went to Morgan Bay, our one of our lead designers who oversees encounters, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to leave Sire Denathrius alive at the end of this, because he's just too good. And I'm sure that we will find some other route for him to take in the future. And so,
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, but also I love that Bwansambi got similar treatment. That was such a treat to run into him in this expansion and go through that bit that I went through during the leveling process. I just thought, well, it's good to see him again. I hope he never goes anywhere. So, all right, good news.
Yeah, and
Sire Denathrius probably not gone for good.
Yeah, that's one of the things that shows. You know, again, we watch fan feedback too to see what the community is responding to, who these characters are that they really gravitate to, and like the memes for Sire Denathrius, of course, are profound in many. So yeah, I won't give any spoilers, but he is in that sword, and you know there may just be allies of his that would be interested in liberating that sword from the Naru's grasp, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Have to wait and see. Well, all right, we've got a great question here from Ultravarius from the Guardians of Fate Guild. This is for Eli. When will we see more heritage armor? There are a few races who are still missing theirs. So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, the heritage armors are awesome. As each one of them was, you know, released in the game, I think we got more and more excited for not only the response, but just how much they enhanced the feel of the races.
Yeah, exactly.
And really did grasp the fantasy that we had set forward for those races over the years. So certainly we're working on the additional missing ones, and they will be released over time in, you know, near future content updates and some others that are a little bit further off. But yeah, they're definitely coming. We're really excited to share them with you.
That's great. They won't be missing forever. They're Ultravarius. Hey, we got one here for John again. This is from Prickle Pants from the Zone Realm. Fantastic name. John, he asks you this, John. Do you have any plans to bring the auction house back to the mobile app?
Well, not as you know it, per se. The auction house, unfortunately, on the mobile and website had kind of turned into a place where a lot of automation had really taken control. And so when we revamped the mobile app, we used as an opportunity to let's get rid of the mobile auction house. Let's revamp the auction house in the game itself to make it, you know, more fun, more accessible. It's really about players being able to trade with each other, to make crafted things for each other, and not necessarily for the accumulation of gold by automated systems. That being said, you know, we recognize that there was a convenience factor for a lot of our players. You know, I myself, back in the days when we used to, you know, drive to work or whatever, if I knew in my commute I had to be, you know, on a tight timeline to get to my raid, it was kind of convenient to be able to, you know, buy up, you know, whatever potions or food that I needed, and then get in the car and head home and be ready to go. So I think the things that are important for people to have and be able to trade, you know, we're going to consider putting that in some form.
You can enjoy wealth.
But you won't see a wholesale return of all things in the auction house to the mobile side.
Well, and as you mentioned, the auction house in-game has gone through a bit of a revamp itself. Do you feel like a lot of that is sufficient enough to sort of, I don't know, fill whatever hole that the mobile app won't?
Well, I mean, honestly, towards the end of the mobile app, there was very few people actually using it as intended. You know, as I said, you know, I think that we're seeing a lot more people participating in the app in the game, or excuse me, in the auction house in the game. And again, you know, we want people to be in the game and interacting with each other. You know, that's super important. But we don't want to take away the convenience of having them get access to things that they're gonna need when they're about to get into the game. And selfishly, like I said, I'm one of those commuters that needs to be able to get, you know, my things ready for the raid. So we recognize that and we want to provide that.
Sounds great. Huntmaster Averi from the Farstriders realm wrote in, and Eli, this is back to you. Will there be more new character customization options added in Shadowlands?
We're not going to add more character customizations to Shadowlands. Let me explain that. So the breadth of character customizations that we did add, we felt like was pretty good. And, you know, we tried to add things for most every race. There are a few we didn't get as many customization options in for. And those are the kind of things that we'll be looking forward in the future, you know, to what can we do for the races we maybe didn't do as much for, what would be the right choices there. We try to be really thoughtful about this type of thing. And these types of features tend to be fairly big projects. We want to make sure that we put the time in, that we're very thoughtful about it, and that we release new customizations when it's going to be really good for the game, really good for the players, and it's still going to, you know, happen in parallel with getting new content out too. Like that's always our primary goal, is making sure that you have new content to play, and we'll do these other things to enhance the game along the way, wherever they make sense, and you know, when we have a really good plan for it.
I don't know if you guys got a lot of this feedback or not, but I can tell you that the thing I had the most fun with the pre-patch was going and getting those customizations done to myself, heading into the barber and going, are you kidding me? I can now have a scar that runs from my eye down to my lip, and half my tusk is broken, and you know, whatever, like that stuff turned out to be really great. Did you overall get really good feedback about that? Do you feel like, you know, giving those extra options was worth it to the players?
Definitely. I remember you know, when we announced that this was happening, I in a Q&A actually, you know, the outcry and the sort of support for it was huge then. We've seen, you know, tremendous support and tremendous outcry from the community, just how happy everybody is seeing this. And of course, as players of the game, we're super excited about it too. The first thing I did on every one of my characters was go in and start customizing them, as well as get into the, you know, character create screen and just look at all the options, hit the random button over and over and over again to just, you know, really get a sense for what's in there. So I think it's a really exciting feature, and it's certainly something we want to invest in a big way going forward when it makes sense.
Yeah, those are fantastic. Radium from the guild Inertia has a question for Ian. What are the actual requirements for flying in Shadowlands? Where can we fly? And can we fly from one area to another, for example, from Ardenweald to Oribos? Follow-up. You know what? I'll save the follow-up. Tell me how that's going to work. Okay. When flying is indeed available to everybody.
So short and sweet. Shadowlands Pathfinder, which is coming in Chains of Domination, will not require any reputations. This is different from Pathfinder achievements in past expansions. It just requires completing your full campaign, the Covenant campaign, and the new chapters that are being added in Chains of Domination. Once you've done that, you have mastered the outer world of the Shadowlands, restored much of the flow of anima, and you can earn the ability to fly within the Shadowlands. Now, you cannot fly directly from zone to zone. I can give you the technical reason for this, but it actually also matches the in-world reason, which is these are not zones that are just next to each other, right? When you go through that portal in Oribos and you're streaking, you know, from one area to another, and you have this energy rushing past you, you're actually traveling vast distances. Even if we said, you know what, we don't care that it looks janky, we're going to let you fly, you'd actually probably have to auto-fly for something like 30 or 40 minutes to get from one zone to the other. You probably don't want that. Use the fly paths, but then once you're in the zones, you can traverse them completely freely.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize that there was that much. I think maybe what throws people off is the map. They bring up the map and they just sort of, in traditional WoW fashion, see that everything's sort of spaced around like it would be a normal map or whatever, but that's a really interesting way to look at it. So here's the follow-up. What about their alts? So after you unlock flying, can their alt fly at 50, or is there still a requirement to level fully up, go through those, go through all the rigmarole to get it, or can they just do it?
Yep. Pathfinder is an account-wide achievement, and so when you can fly in the Shadowlands, you, the player, have earned the right to fly in the Shadowlands, just as prior Pathfinder achievements have worked.
That is fantastic news.
Повече ток. Еми, почваме по-рано и приключваме по-рано.
Let's move over to Brian. We got a question from others from the Quiddy Viddy Guild, who says, in the Burning Crusade Classic, will there be the possibility of class tuning? Says that would make it notably different than in 2007.
That's a great question, and in general the answer is broadly no. We want to kind of keep the authentic behavior that was in the final patch of Burning Crusade the same way we did it with Classic. We believe that's the most tuned and correct version of Classic that had the most time, or excuse me, of Classic Burning Crusade, that had the most time for the designers to get things balanced right. And so that's what we're going to ship with at launch and keep it throughout. That said, I do have a slight caveat for anybody who hasn't heard it in any of our other interviews. We do want to try to adjust things like faction imbalance. We know that when they were adding Alliance, Alliance Shaman and the Horde Paladins, the intent was to try to make the factions a level playing field, give both classes, all the classes to both factions. And we want to make sure that kind of design intent is honored. And so we realize that when we look back with the benefit of our years of experience now, we can see that Seal of Blood is actually significantly better than Seal of Vengeance, and we don't want that to be a reason for people to suddenly flock off to the Horde. Kind of like alluding to Ian's answer earlier, this is the same kind of issue that we have here. And so what we want to do is give the Alliance a Seal of the Martyr at level 70. So they'll unlock Seal of Vengeance at level 64 and Seal of the Martyr at level 70. And the Horde will unlock Seal of Blood at level 64 and Seal of Vengeance at level 70. But beyond that, we aren't doing anything major.
Okay, sounds good. Classic players, a lot of people want to know about that. Here's one for Ian again from Whoopi from the Kindred Guild. It says this question. Is there work currently being done on new Torghast anima powers for later patches, specifically spec-specific powers, and what does that look like, and when might we see them?
All throughout Shadowlands. We have tuning ongoing to a lot of the spec-specific powers that players have seen on the patch 905 public test realm that's live right now. And as we continue to expand Torghast going forward into Chains of Domination, there will be all new powers, because we know powers are one of the star pieces of Torghast. It's a chance to break the rules, it's a chance to be overpowered, and to have your character feel and play like it does and can nowhere else in the game. And so that's something we're excited to keep building on, and we'll do it as it makes sense. We're looking a lot at both stats and feedback from players. Пък и все пак трябва да се наберат legit въпроси за Burning Crusade, не че не мога да фейкнат предполагам.
So, tiny little bit of indulgence here. I had a theory a while back on one of my shows that one cool feature of Torghast could be, go to Torghast, do your thing. You've got all these anima fixes that are now on you toward the end of your run. You finish, you beat the final boss, and you exit. How cool would it be if you could run around the maw for, let's say, 8 minutes? Not very long, just a little counter up in there like a buff, where you retain all your anima powers in the maw for that brief amount of time. So you've got your, I don't know, all the extra stuff that happens to every character in every class. Is that anything you guys would ever consider? Has that ever come across your minds or been on a whiteboard anywhere?
I can see Rextroy over there just drooling right now. Like, don't let that guy get his hold of any of this, or all of our raid bosses will fall over in 2 seconds. There are a lot of rules that we break in actually how we build those powers for Torghast that make it challenging to let them work in the outdoor world. Also, war mode players might have a thing or two to say about that, but let's keep the overpowerness. Може да задържим, като излезем от Torghast в Дамо за 5-10 минути тия сили. И така, просто да обиколим.
That's true. All right, Caro, in fact, Steve, we're going to throw you this one. Caro from the Blade Fist realm had this question. What is the difference between the passage of time in Shadowlands and on Azeroth? Salinar, the Horseman, and Death Knight Order Hall campaign are in that, says he was in the veil between Azeroth and Shadowlands since we met him, and it felt like mere days for him between Wrath of the Lich King and Legion.
Yeah, there's a number of different characters you meet and interact with through the course of Shadowlands, for whom time doesn't seem to have very much meaning. And in fact, like the Rune Carver, you go talk to the Rune Carver, when you meet him, he has a line, not a construct of death. And that's true. When you think about it, what is time a construct of? It's a construct of order. And we on Azeroth, when we're there, we understand the passage of time, much like we do in the real world, because of the influence of the Titans and beings of order. But when you're in those cosmic realms that are far away from the realms of order, time loses its meaning. And so it's not so much that there's a, like, well, it's X number of days versus Y number over here. It's just that the Shadowlands are about eternities and about just kind of losing yourself in those threads of fate. And so it's just that time doesn't really mean anything there. And so you can have it perceived differently by different characters that could be in the same circumstance, but it's just the effect of what they're going through that really determines how they perceive it.
Подобно на катаклизма, но a healing period.
Ian, back to you on this one. We've got a question about this is from Harrison, by the way. So would you guys ever consider bringing back 10-man content? I'll add my name to this list as someone who loved their 10-man content, either as a different difficulty for raids or as an entirely different instance for smaller groups to tackle. Is that ever going to happen?
I think when it comes to raid content, effectively all of it is 10-player content now. I know some people specifically want mythic difficulty, but it feels like the thrust of this question, actually the spirit of it, is about that different thing that you can do with a smaller group of friends. And I would say in World of Warcraft today, it's our 5-player mega dungeons that fill that role. Just as in Burning Crusade, when raiding was 25 players as an activity, the idea of a 10-player raid like Karazhan or Zulaman was a novel experience.
Okay, Ion, Jesus Christ.
Shared, romp through a dungeon, through a raid adventure.
That's
what mega dungeons try to do. They try to give an experience that is raid-like.
Това правят гейм директорите, спомнят си кой е било.
Все едно не си играл тогава.
Пенсионер. As cool as our dungeons are, places like Karazhan or Operation Mechagon or the upcoming Broker Dungeon just blow them away. And so I think that is where the spirit of 10-player content lives on today.
Well, that's an interesting take. I hadn't thought of it that way. That sounds about right. We've got a question submitted by Dizdick. Brian, this is for you. Will summoning stones be available at launch in the Burning Crusade, or are those going to come later?
Oh, that's an easy one. We will absolutely have those at launch in the Burning Crusade. They were introduced originally with Burning Crusade, and they replaced the original meeting stones. And we actually, in Classic, had to disable that functionality to try to bring back that authentic experience. It'll be a pleasure to be able to bring it back. I know I enjoyed using them very much myself as a way to kind of bring other people over to the dungeon when we were waiting for them to run over. And I think it's a really good feature for a Burning Crusade to be able to have those.
That sounds great. Got a great one here for Steve. And this is many players, many variations of this question, but here's the one we settled with. What's Bolvar up to? And where is his story going in Shadowlands? Will he have a major role to play? I would think yes.
Guys,
let's hear it from
всички
you.
Questo до сега са вързани с Болвар. Какви сте въпроси?
Fun things about Shadowlands was to be able to get Bolvar 4 Dragon, this legendary hero, back in the mix again, free of the Lich King's crown, being himself again, and bringing all that knowledge and wisdom to the table. And we saw him being, pivotal in us getting to the Shadowlands, in guiding us as we went to rescue our friends Thrall, Jaina, Bane, from Torghast. And we saw that there was a price to pay for those visions where he got to peer in there and see what the jailer and Sylvanas were up to with Anduin. But he will be front and center for Chains of Domination. He is a great figure to kind of rally the Covenants together and go into the Maw with them and be at the forefront of those efforts of taking the fight to the jailer. So it's going to be really fun to see him.
Well, I'm excited about games.
Wait. Lately, he's just sort of stands around the desk. In the Oribos, and it's fine, but I can't wait to see what he does.
Video games, cool.
He's got a cool hammer, right? Like he's got to swing the hammer.
Right, I need to see that thing in action. Mask of Death from the Epoch of Thought Guild wrote in. In Burning Crusade, how will PvP titles such as Gladiator, Duelist, and Rival be determined, considering we don't have established battle groups? And I got a little follow-up to that, depending on what you say.
Sure. I mean, that's a really good question, and that comes from originally there was an award for the top player in each battle group, and that really came from the fact that we had technical restrictions where people playing on different hardware installations, like different data center sites, couldn't play with ones playing on other data center sites, and we actually don't have that restriction anymore. You can actually matchmake players across the entire region. And so we think a more fair way to approach this today is to just do a small percentage of people at the very top. We do want to award to more than like one person, but still a very exclusive title where we want to keep it to like a top select few that is similar to like, it was I think 13 about per region back then.
Колко е странно, by the way. BlizzCon, в който невероятно ще им задават само готини въпроси. Това е BlizzCon, на който е онлайн.
Hundreds of people with this title out of millions of
Когато нямат
It's very small and very exclusive. So we want to do that, and we want to do a top percentage of those players region-wide for that.
So is it appropriate to have Arena Season 1 start so early in Burning Crusade then?
We actually think we were talking about maybe we want to start it earlier than we announced in the deep dive panel. We're talking about, as we've been looking at the gear, we think that it actually might fit more with Karazhan and the Tier 4 gear, and so we might actually move all the Arena seasons up so that Arena Season 1 starts when Karazhan and Gruul and Nightbearer Slayer come out, and then probably have Zul'Aman come out without an Arena season so that the next season we'll skip over that one.
Well, Chrissy wrote in, had one for Steve. It says, in Stormwind, I noticed some of the refugees from Darnassus mentioned going back once the smoke clears to collect any belongings. Does this mean that Teldrassil could be rebuilt / regrown and become inhabitable again?
The devastation to Teldrassil was pretty definitive, and there were a lot of lives lost there, and that's not something that we want to just reverse on a whim. But what I will say is that the story of what the Night Elves went through, of those souls that died there, that as we have found out if you play the Ardenweald campaign, you'll know that they funneled into the Maw. Their story is not yet done. And certainly a figure who is bound up in that story is Tyrande Whisperwind. And she is very much on the path of trying to find out the future of her people, even as she's dealing with that thirst for revenge against Sylvanas and dealing with the Night Warrior powers that are growing to consume her. So that's definitely a story that we'll be talking about as we go into Chains of Domination and beyond.
Yeah, she seemed pretty ticked, so I suspect we're not done.
Good reason, yep.
Yep, oh yeah. Holly, here's one for you. Will you open fresh classic servers in addition rather to the TBC servers? There seems to be a large demand for it, asks Shadow Wedbro. He's from a Few Good Lads Guild. What do you think about that? Another classic server given the demand?
Great question. For our timeline for Burning Crusade Classic, we won't be launching any fresh start servers, but I can promise you we've got our eyes on that in our future, and we'll be discussing it once we get through a stable and successful launch with Burning Crusade Classic.
Веднъж, когато си chosen на Valum, няма връщане.
What are the things
Мисля, че ще да
гътнем накрая. Layering? Do you guys still have many concerns about players' reaction to layering, and they want this authentic experience that existed when the game first launched, and by the time TBC rolled around, there were better ways to deal with things anyway, so not so much of an issue, but are you worried at all about that still? I mean, I know it's an issue for some players. Is that an issue for you guys?
Honestly, our focus is on whoever wants to play should be able to play. We would rather have layers on for a short period of time if necessary so that everyone can get in and play. And that's always going to be our focus. Serve as many players as we can who want to play.
Fantastic. We do have time for one big final question. There was a whole lot of video at this BlizzCon Online that made a lot of people very excited. Actually, I have all kinds of personal questions about it, but I'm going to hold those and instead ask this common question that we got in the Twitch chat today. How do you get the Wandering Ancient mount? John, you want to handle this one?
Oh, you bet. That's a great one. So, little background. Last year, when we were finishing up Shadowlands, our art team really, they were ahead of schedule, or at least they were on schedule. And we decided, it would be awesome to give a gift back to all of our players and build a mount for them. And so the art team put together some cool ideas. They brainstormed on things they wanted, and we literally put it to a vote, and we let our community decide what would they like for us to make for them. And the winner was the Wandering Ancient. So the requirement to get the Wandering Ancient really is you gotta have Shadowlands. And we will have the Wandering Ancient in the 905.
Дали са наговорили? Чудесен въпрос, Влади.
That will be next month. I won't tell you the exact date because, but you can probably guess, and you'll be pretty close, but we want to make sure that the patch is ready before we put it out. But we're really excited that you'll be able to ride that around. It is a really awesome mount. And if you have a question, I want to be able to answer that before, since you said this is a final question, I just want to thank you, Scott, for being our host, being a familiar face, supporting our community, and us do such a great job. So thank you for agreeing to do this for us.
Oh, well, thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure. In fact, since we're being so nice to each other, I really liked your introduction for the WoW stuff. But also, my last question for you is attack onto the Wandering Ancient. Can you confirm or deny that there's a little worm on top that actually controls this millennium-old treant who probably not want somebody sitting on them anytime they felt
Don't tell the story about the worm. You can't talk about the worm, John. I told you, do not talk about the worm.
Shoot. I was afraid that this was a topic we were not going to be able to touch.
I'd be willing to bet that Eli's got something in that Wandering Ancient that only the ARC team knows about.
There is a worm. I'm not going to reveal their relationship. It's very special.
Wow. All right.
But I suggest watching the panel around how we went about creating it. I think it's going to be really interesting for everybody to watch. It is really awesome. So definitely check it out.
And we'll hear the actor that we have voicing the worm.
Yeah.
Well, just like the worm, it has to leave sometime, and we do too. But I do want to say a gigantic thank you to everybody on this panel. You guys were awesome this year, and such a strange year to be able to still get together and ask the questions and talk about the game in this way is just it's a great experience for me. I know that for sure, and I know a lot of people listening really appreciate it as well. So thank you guys for your time and for sharing your answers with the community. And moreover, huge thanks to the community. You guys don't have a Q&A without your questions. There's no A without the Q. So thank you for submitting those and for being a part of this each and every time.
There's no A without the Q.
So that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for watching the Q&A. Hope you really enjoy the rest of Saturday's content. And go play WoW. Play a Demon Hunter. He's really good in zones that you don't like playing with other classes. You can fly really high, and it's really great. I'm not pointing at anything particular. I'm not going to get specific, but I'm just saying Demon Hunter's for the win right now in a certain covenant. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Сега ще има 5 минути Virtual Match of the Mudlocks. March of the Mudlocks. Искам да видя за какво става въпрос. И отиваме към Дявол панелчето, където ще има всякакви дявол въпроси.
The stage is set. The green flag drops. Let the carnage begin. Holy Toledo! What a collection!
На смъртен одър съм. Толкова съм си бял по принцип. Насрочил съм си погребението за след 2 седмици. Моят опит с Lost Vikings е на лаптопа.
Що ме на лаптоп?
Лаптоп на един приятел, който ги носеше в Даска улица към мен.
Що ме лаптоп? Това е модерна индустрия, вай.
Едно от първите ми спомени за кооперативно оживяване.
Експлозията е важна.
What's up, BlizzConline? Lindsay Sterling here, and I performed at BlizzCon, I believe 2 years ago, and I will never forget that performance. You guys were so much fun, and you made me feel like a rock star, so thank you for that experience, and today is obviously a little different, but it's really special to me because this is the first time I'll be performing my new song, Lose You Now. So I hope you enjoy it, and here's to another 30 years.
На BlizzCon я гледал на живо, кой не просто. Не просто я гледал на живо, не просто бил на BlizzCon. На BlizzCon е гледал на живо Линди Стърлинг. Може да е без патладжан. Spectre, nobody looks like they looked 5 years ago.
Да, Боже опази да изглеждам като преди 5 години.
Аз пазя много снимки.
Ще превключваме ли? Или?
На мен ми се искаше да видя това Virtual March of the Murlocs.
То нещо не се случва.
Влади.
Да?
Искам да те попитам, ти дали чу? Вчера, помниш ли, че имаше една банда, която беше след опенинг церемонията?
Да, чух за този случай.
Помниш ли коя беше? Аз мисля, че беше чудесната банда Металика. И след това едни хора, които могат да окачат само с П, българската П дума от Twitch, тези П хора в Twitch са махнали Металика и са сложили дженерик рок музика, за да може да не им свали някой аудио човек стрима.
Да.
Просто не мога да опиша колко голяма П дума с тия хора.
Защото те пушваха доста за DMCA в началото на хилядолетието. Не знам дали си спомниш.
Не.
Да, бяха доста asshole по въпроса.
Чакай, кои са били asshole? Металика, да, спомням си, че бяха. Аз мисля, че говориш, че Twitch в началото били някакви.
Да, нали, доста е поетична справедливост, така да го наречем, точно тя да ги мютнат.
Просто е
най-добра форма, но
въобще не ме интересува.
Не уневинява Twitch или нещо такова.
Да, изобщо не ме интересува Металика.
Да се оправят нещата.
Просто той е цирк с музикалните права, Влади, и ние сме палячовците, които играем в този цирк. Това е.
Но точно, it will only get worse before it gets
Honestly, ако се появи друга платформа, аз съм първият човек, който ще вдигне ръка и ще кажа да се местим там. Просто той, че
мисля, че друга платформа ще оправи това с специално пък сапълски права.
Не се знае. В YouTube е възможно. Там просто трябва да изключиш монетизацията и може да ползваш всичко.
Не знам, тегаво е. И да, отново не мисля, че е точно смяната на Twitch ще промени нещо, но да видим. Времето ще си го покаже. Нали?
Но най-вече искаме просто Sony и Warner да фалират. И Universal. Пожелавам им да фалират.
Yes. Може Twitch да са солти, че Blizzard дадоха всичко на YouTube. Може, да.
Добре. Свърши това. Това ли беше The Virtual... Това ли беше The Virtual... Ето го. The Virtual March of the Murlocs. The fuck is this now?
Хайде, значи ще си кастат.
Аз не знам какво е, Влади. Каква е краста?
Нагледаш мърлоци, очевидно.
О, не, още проблеми за Twitch. It's music, Влади.
О, но.
О, Jesus, това всичките косплеери, които са дошли с Мърлок ланзита.
Снимани и изрязани. That's cute. Гледал съм въпросния марш. О, господи.
Това трябва да го силя.
Traveler Burlock, Fiddly Burgleton. Chef Murloc, Captain Cookie, King Murloc, King Murloc, King Murloc, Burgle. Bing bong. Let's go hunt.
Забавено на живо, бе? Голям съцик.
Save at last. Save at last. Save at last. Save at last. It's the end.
If we just check it.
Леле, чак сега ли се усети? Боже мой, Норч.
Absolutely worth it.
5 minutes well spent, както се казва.
Good.
Добре, кажи ми на кой линк да цъкне и да се синхронизираме с теб.
Да, ами отиваме на Schedule и цъкаме на Diablo QA, Владко.
Добре.
Аз съм на 0 в момента.
И аз съм на 0.
И на 3. 1, 2, 3. Започваме с Diablo QA и завършваме BlizzConline. Накрая с Владко ще направим едно аутро. И толкова.
Има автоматични субтитри.
Има ли?
Ето тук се личи, че са наистина автоматични.
Тук са автоматични, да.
We have Wyatt Chang, who is the lead designer for Diablo Immortal, and Rob Gallerini, who is the principal designer at Vicarious Visions, who works on Diablo 2 Resurrected. I want to do a real quick, how long have you been here question. Luis, how long have you been at Blizzard?
15 years.
Nice, 15. Wyatt, how long have you been at Blizzard?
Started at Blizzard North just over 18 years ago.
Wow.
Oh, look, човек от Blizzard North.
How long have you been? Sorry, what day of the week ago?
Yeah, what day of the week is it? I think sub 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're the only person who looks at his wrist to figure out how long have I been at Blizzard. But
I've been at VG for 20, but Blizzard is 2 weeks.
Две седмици и вече съм в BlizzCon.
It's great to have VB as part of Blizzard, and you guys are kicking butt, as they would say. So welcome. All right, let's get into the questions. First question for Mr. Barriga. So rogues are canonically only women. Does that mean we'll have 2 classes that are locked to one gender, the other being a male druid?
Yeah, so the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye, they're canonically women, and we do have the remnants of that order. We also have other groups of rogues that we're showing in Diablo 4, and of course, for all of our classes, players have full customization options, and they're not gender-locked.
What about the factions? So one of the questions we've been getting a lot around is are the rogues part of one faction as part of Diablo 4?
No, so the player rogue, you can always come up with your own background that, you know, if you want to RP somebody that belongs to a specific group or comes from a specific region, we want to give you maximum flexibility, but we want to show that there exist entities that are part of an order, that belong to a group, that aren't affiliated, and then kind of give you that freedom to create the character that you imagine.
Nice. All right. Next up, Wyatt. You had that awesome tech alpha in December, and so people are curious, do you have any major learnings coming out of that?
Yeah, the tech alpha was focused primarily on the early game and the mid-game systems, so we were able to check how people felt about the controls. We got feedback that, yeah, it felt like an authentic Diablo game, which is great because, you know, using a completely different input mechanism to still feel like Diablo is what we were going for. And so that was great. Also, since we didn't have any of our late game systems in, people would get to level 45 and kind of say, okay, what not? What do I do now? And I kind of validated that, yeah, we have some work to do on endgame systems. That's up next for the team. And we're looking forward to talking more about that later this year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Later this year? Come on, guy. Release the fucking game.
Question starts with hello, Blizzard. So, hello, Caleb. Hello. Are there going to be high-texture animated cinematics at the end of every act and major moment like we had in Diablo 3? Basically the question. So are the cinematics in D2R similar to the way that they were done in Diablo 3?
So no, the style of how they were done in D3 is different. So in D2, what we're doing is we're literally remaking shot for shot all 27 plus minutes of the cinematics that have just become iconic for Diablo 2. So the original soundtrack will be playing all, you know, remastered for 7.1.
Best fan
the
service
visuals of what you see
I have ever
will
fucking
be
done.
full 3D models, full scenes, what you come to expect from a current gen Blizzard.
Nobody has done
One of the things that's great too is we're actually keeping all the same performances. So we're up-resing the audio, but those actors perform it. Marius, it will still sound like Marius and his following of the Dark Wanderer, which I think is really cool. Back to you, Luis. The question is, I noticed in the Diablo 4 gameplay videos that when you hit a monster, the monster becomes highlighted or a lighter color. I feel like this ruins the immersion of the game. Will there be an option to disable it?
So we really like how it works, the emphasis that it places on how visceral combat feels. But we have run into situations where specific members of the team find it very distracting, almost like an impediment to play the game. So we do have it as an option as part of our accessibility suite. We do want to make sure that our game can be played by as many people as possible. And also because many times the combat impacts do have animations or other effects associated with it. We find that it does add something to combat, but it's not mandatory.
Аз не го разбирам.
Wyatt, back to you.
Но
Frank says, are there plans to continue the seasons of Diablo 3 in Diablo Immortal?
Seasons? Great question. I think
amazing question. Wow, I mean,
sort of find seasons appealing for a couple different reasons.
Glorious.
If I were to name probably two of the most common.
Ако Diablo 2 има сезони 20 години,
progression reset
защо на Diablo 3 спира сезоните?
Progress very quickly early on again before some of the later stages of the game.
Immortal, бидейки persistent progression типика, е малко по...
The other thing people like is having those content updates. For Diablo Immortal, we're really focusing on the content update part. You know, we want to provide regular content updates to the game, so you can definitely expect the game to stay fresh and exciting through those content updates. But we don't intend to reset progress. We feel like, you know, since Diablo Immortal really wants to double down on having lots of progression systems, we want players to experience the new content that we release every patch using the characters that they have leveled up and built up over their previous play sessions.
Nice, great, thank you. All right, Rob, you're it. This is actually a multi-part question, so the idea of sending one question, we're sneaking in like 4, so you may need to take notes.
Явно му въртят едни същи снимки в медиите от години.
Maybe we should just take them in parts. We'll take them in parts. I'll make it easier on you. I see that. So first one, I see that there's cross progression, but it doesn't seem to have cross play. So people play with PC, for instance. So cross progression, cross play.
So we will definitely be supporting cross progression. Your accounts are your characters that you create online are saved on Battle.net, and they're pulled from all the different systems you want. But as far as cross play, that's not something we're supporting right now. You will be able to play against people because our ladder leaderboards are global across the world and across all platforms.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice. Okay, well then, part 2 is controller support for PC? Question mark?
Yes, absolutely. Literally, you just plug a controller in and you push a button on it, and it just pops over
така трябва.
Wait,
всичко трябва така да работи.
Controllers, that's how that works? Like, no idea. What about local co-op, like D3? Is there going to be local co-op in D2R?
So there won't be couch co-op like there is. We did look into that, but the game is fundamentally built around your character staying in the center of the screen. When we started departing from that, it wasn't D2 anymore. And really, the name of the game with Diablo 2 Resurrected is like the authenticity of this original experience. There will, however, be local play on...
by the way.
Nice. Well, and network co-op, like we're bringing back a big feature with 8-player co-op.
I love that 8 players is a big thing when we're just keeping on what was there originally. But yes, pretty much all the ways you could play before are now preserved. So 8 players on Battle.net. If you want to have a local character and have people TCP connect into your game with 7 of your friends, that's
principal designer.
Nice.
Дори не бъде внимание, човек.
Using my modem and plugging the phone in.
Изключително опитен човек.
All right, Luis, back to you. In the last quarterly update of Diablo 4, you also introduced legendary affixes with damage multipliers. Don't you think the system will escalate the same way it did in Diablo 3? Or are you strictly planning on not only balancing builds by increasing or decreasing damage multipliers?
Yeah, we definitely expect that as you progress, that we want you to feel more powerful. And this being an RPG, we do want numbers to go up. But absolutely, players shouldn't expect it to be in the millions or billions or anything like that. We have gotten that question before, and it's something we're trying to control as much as possible, with an understanding that we still want you to feel powerful. So hopefully players will find that, you know, as we show them more of the game, that we're striking a good balance there.
Просто там правят мега демидж, както беше в April Fools.
Will the lore go through the lore of Diablo 3 and maybe even go into Diablo 4?
No, the lore of Diablo Immortal is focused on the span of time in between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. That's a 20-year period, so we feel like there's a lot of stories,
no hard-hitting questions.
There's a lot for us to look at. There is an exciting opportunity for us is that one of the zones that we have in Immortal is called the Library of Zoltan Kulle. And during Tech Alpha, we had a dungeon called a Destruction's End, and it basically involved something kind of similar to time walking for those familiar with World of Warcraft, where time walking allowed you to visit a lore piece kind of outside the bounds of the normal timeline. And so while we have plenty to explore in between 2 and 3, we even have the opportunity to revisit a few key moments in Diablo's history as well. So that should also be exciting.
I think two of my favorite things too is one is because Immortal is before Diablo 3, that means Deckard Cain is still alive. Spoiler. Yes. Which is awesome to have Deckard back. And the other is that basically it means with that, Diablo 2 Resurrected is kind of the prequel to Immortal. So, if you're getting ready for Immortal, you gotta play a lot of Diablo 2 Resurrected just to get ready for the story.
We should make that game.
Holy shit. Това ще е middle finger to that fucking
Look to the guy next to you. He's taking care of it. We're good.
2 weeks, guys. 2 weeks.
Rob, let's see. Bots and cheats in Diablo 2, will there be more protection against them in D2R?
Yeah, so we're moving to modern BattleNet, and so to claim that there will never be a dupe or never be bots, I would never challenge the internet. But we have far more tools in our toolbox.
Just
and even things like toxic behavior, you can now report players. Chat with other people in other games. It's just a lot of the luxury that comes with running on the modern BattleNet.
Awesome. Luis, back to you. When trying to make a darker world like the original Diablo and Diablo 2, what are your biggest challenges? Do you get any limitations because of the actual state of the community?
Believe it or not, like a big limitation is striking the right balance. We find that if we go too hard just everywhere, you kind of get numb to it. So, like, if we just have corpses everywhere and blood everywhere and everywhere,
Diablo 3 беше абсолютно
you just start tuning it out, right? But if we do strike a balance, and of course, cultist temples and hell and like dark basements, like you're gonna have horrific scenes, right? But we find that by once in a while giving you like really awesome, awe-inspiring vistas, or even like some of the environment has this dark beauty, and you get these moments of tranquility. So then when we show you like the disemboweled bodies, it really hits, like that. Those moments become very punchy. So oddly enough, that's been like the challenge is like not going too hard everywhere evenly and finding like the right spots to really amp it up. And then as far as the state of the community, we find that so far like people have been reacting really well to the tone in our quarterly updates. So really excited to show you guys more.
What about the kind of the state of the world? Like 20 years ago, part of the Diablo 2 charm was that it was probably the darkest game out there. It was almost like this cult classic in the sense that it kind of felt a little like forbidden. And now we're in a world of Walking Dead and Sons of Anarchy and Game of Thrones, and like there is a, people are a little bit more desensitized to that darkness. That mean you need to push it further than maybe D2, or like how do you think about how people sort of are they been desensitized?
I mean, that's a great question. I feel like in a way it gave us the opportunity to go like, hey, maybe we can do something like by 3 they come, and maybe there is an appetite for that, for like blending in a lot more of those horror elements. So, and a lot of that was based on like seeing kind of the shifts of where pop culture was going and what things were acceptable in mainstream. And we're like, yeah, maybe we can do like a very horrific opening cinematic. And we took a chance with that, and we think it landed pretty well.
Awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. Okay, Wyatt.
Hey, fale bе, če.
I'm sure you got this question a million times, but I'll give it to you again. Can you tell us when the game is coming out?
I do get that question. No, I can't say when the game's coming out, but what I can share is, so earlier this year we finished our first technical phase, but there's more testing phases ahead. In fact, I think it's safe to say there's more testing ahead of us than there is behind at this point. We still need to get the Crusader and Necromancer in. There's more zones. During technical alpha, the level cap was 45, but the shipping game is going to be 60. That's going to come with 2 or 3 extra zones, and with the main quest line. And then on top of that, I alluded to this earlier, but there's the Elder game systems that we've been talking about, both PvE Elder game systems and PvP Elder game systems. And we want to make sure that we have proper testing phases to make sure that those get the testing
do you know
that
it?
they require.
Do you know what? I know what. Do you?
To make the game good.
And will the Crusader make the next testing phase?
It's a very good question.
When can I play as a Crusader?
Yeah, we're not talking about the timing yet, but there will be a testing phase with the Crusader, and there will be a testing phase with the Necromancer.
Okay.
Well done, by the way, PR is gold star. That was well done.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Friend code. На кой friend да го пратиш?
Will there still be player collusion with other players? For instance, Maggot Lair was always tough to traverse.
I don't know about players colluding with each other, but I do think that collision is definitely a thing that will still exist.
Collision. I apologize. By the way, Pez Radar, Adam Fletcher, our community manager, collected the questions, and the fact that he didn't run a spell check or look at
shit.
I don't want to call him out for not completely doing his job correctly, but it's at Pez Radar on Twitter. Anyway, sorry, carry on. So collision in Maggot Lair.
Yeah, so it will still be there. The Maggot Lair is still a tricky place to get around.
Кеф е Луис как basically няма чувство за хумор. Това е човека за Diablo 4.
Had we taken it out, yes, it would have made, co-op in Maggot Lair easier. But that's a system that touches so much of the game that we couldn't touch it without causing unwanted side effects. So there will still be player
Трябва да е на специален
event. Трябва да е специален event, не става така randomly. Spectre, he's not a fucking horde that does tricks for money.
The D2 simulation is running underneath.
I mean, he is, but not this little
player
money,
still moving on a grid in D2. It's just being presented in 3D, right?
Yeah, it's a good way to describe it is that really the original game is the puppet master, and all of the 3D engine is just the puppet. And so all the strings and everything that's being told what to do is being driven by the original.
It's just a really good-looking puppet.
It is a really good look. It's like where, you know how puppets look creepy? Like, it's fine, it's
Stop talking.
Nice engine.
Stop problem. Stop over your head.
That was a terrible metaphor. You started on a path, realized you were digging a hole, and then aborted. That was amazing to listen to.
Can he call out for
just in time?
He's great.
Are there any plans on supporting Druid builds that focus on staying in one wereform for a longer duration?
Yeah, so you can definitely make builds that every button is a werewolf skill or every button is a werebear skill. And those builds are quite effective. And then how that manifests itself is that you basically do end up being in that form for a longer period of time. But then if you're backtracking in a dungeon or going back to town, basically if you're out of combat for a little bit of a longer period of time, you will revert back to your beautiful druid body that we want to make sure that you keep connecting with that druid. But absolutely, if you're if deep in your heart you're a werewolf, like you will be I don't want to say 90% of the time, but you will be
Точката, в която гледа много перфектно при мен поне съвпада с мястото, където е бутилката ми с вода и не мога да си избия от главата, че Луис Брига иска да отпие от моята водичка. Затова искам аз да отпия от моята водичка.
I'm just trying to display pride in all diverse body shapes that we have with all of our characters. The druid's so popular in the team, like it's a good one.
And what I really want is to be able to ride my mount as a bear. Can I ride my horse as a bear?
Unfortunately, no. That's one of the things that force you to shapeshift. That is not allowed. It's a little too much for Sanctuary.
Why do you hate
Can I ride my horse as a bear?
Sanctuary's not ready for it.
Sanctuary's not ready for bears on horses, ladies and gentlemen. Bears on horses. Okay, Wyatt, back to you. How will the game work for future update after release, update/expansion-wise?
We have many patch content plans. We want to continue to support the game well after release. Honestly, for us, the game's release is just the beginning.
No. Танцуват около термина Game as a Service, но Diablo Immortal определено е структурирано като сервис.
Да, но Game as a Service.
New Paragon trees.
Да, бих казал, да.
New
смисъл, не променя факта, нали, че
просто исках да си го
поете от компетентна компания.
Разграфи в главата дали пасва термина.
There's more of everything. We'll just keep piling it on.
Nice. Okay, Rob. Diablo 2 Resurrected. What patch will the remaster be based off of? Skill synergies and elemental immune enemies in the later patches severely limited the build diversity and fun factor.
It is what it is, but
we'll use 1.14, which is the current live
1.14,
and we're aware that the balance of the game live has
1.14.
Right, so your Hammerdins are still going to be pretty good to use. And the reason we did that was we wanted to focus on nailing this foundation of the authentic experience. We didn't want to start balancing it out to something else, because if we gave players this game that they remembered, but things felt differently because we balanced them or rebalanced them, it's too many variables. So right now we're focused on pretty much what's live today.
Nice.
Красо да си в Blizzard и да функционираш нормално, трябва да си
Diablo 3 felt very isolated with the lack of trading between players.
Освен това, вижда ли си Свен Винки?
Trading between players?
Той пиша, знаеш колко тупана, да.
We definitely want Diablo 4 to be very social.
Свен Винки от
It's something that we're leaning on, and we do want that opportunity for players to go like,
той мисля, че е на някакъв
you have that item.
LSD или нещо.
Това, на което е Свен Винки през цялото време, човек.
We're still figuring out the limitations that we're going to have.
Той живее в паралелен свят с нашия.
Trading is definitely going to be a big part of it, both direct player to player, and also with your clanmates through a clan bank. So stay tuned for more details, but we will definitely have trading.
Awesome. Wyatt.
Нещо интересно.
Will there be PvP and PvE competing with and against others, raids, etc.?
После ще го сумирам.
Battle arena with a ranking system or a free-to-play friendly system where you can spend day and night developing your skills and challenge other players would motivate everyone to keep playing this game even after they finish the story.
Question. No?
We will have lots of great, awesome things for people to do after they finish the storyline. It's another thing I can't, we don't have any announcements to make today, but PvE goals, yes, absolutely. PvP, group-based PvP for like you and not just like, 3 or 4 of your friends, but actually like larger groups of your friends to do in PvP combat with other players, yes, absolutely. And it's going to be rad. Awesome. It'll be awesome.
So rad is, I think, rad is what you're going with? You're not going with lids or poggers or anything?
Yes, I guess, yeah.
I like rad. What's wrong?
It'll be lit.
No idea.
It's gonna be poggers.
Rad.
I'm showing my age.
Hello, we're working on a 20-year-old game for rad.
Cut it.
I just want to do the hello, fellow kids.
Enough.
That'll be good. Okay, so Rob. Will the classic Diablo 2 be updated to have better screen resolution?
Чека пише го на сайта, мамка му.
1080p, since the default resolution is unplayable on full screen for me.
Нищо иска да го имате на видео, най-вероятно.
I don't mean me, I mean the person asking the question.
So we'll be running at 4320p on PC, 2160p on next-gen consoles at 60 frames per second. On PC, you could run uncapped. 7.1 sound.
Uncapped on PC.
If you want to run on a 21:9 monitor, yeah. So those are the pretty much what you'd expect from a modern game. So that's what we did.
You were so quick and precise with those numbers. I mean, it's almost like.
Венги има много мразни хора в тази компания.
Post-it notes stick to all things, even cameras. Totally unrelated topic I just brought up there.
Apparently Adam has decided that you should get a follow-up question since he put them out of order, so we're just living with that now. Can you explain the old frame rate and breakpoint system and how it can be preserved with uncapped frame rate?
Yeah, so this one I'm going to go into a little bit of detail. And it's there's a lot that actually is about the old game's feel. So the original game, like a lot of older games, ran on frames, not on time. And so if you imagine the game running like a bicycle wheel with the spokes, if something happened in between the spoke, it wouldn't really click over. So that's what breakpoints are. Breakpoints in the game are you've upped your stats so much that it will go faster and fall in between a frame, so you don't get credit for it. And so there's builds made that way hit certain breakpoints. Now we have to preserve that. So our modern game still runs with all the spokes. All we're doing is we're adding a much smoother tire around the outside, so we're throwing a lot more visual frames in. So the animations that you see can run very, very smoothly, but these moments when the game is checking to see what happens are still in the exact same spot.
Believe it or not, I actually understood that.
Me too. I'm like, is it a simile or a metaphor? But I got it. That was really good.
Well, I think in Rod's mind it was one of those old-timey bikes where the front wheel's really big.
Oh,
and the back
what do you mean old-timey? All bikes are big wheel. That's what you ride. What does old-timey mean? What does it have to be old-timey? I mean, if anybody can paint a picture with words, it's Rob. We all know that. It was beautiful. I saw every word. Okay, we're at the point in the program now where we're going to enter what is lovingly called the lightning round. And
Ooh,
so
lightning
round. We've gone past the essay part of the test, and now we're on to multiple choices. One-word answers, as close to one-word answers as you can get. And I'm going to be picking on one person for like as many as I have here. So. And my first victim, person that I'm going to be talking to is Luis. You're going to be getting the lightning round. Are you ready? Are you prepared?
Let's do it.
You need to drink water or anything because they're coming fast. Okay. They're coming fast.
Той си има водичка.
All right. By the way, I've been doing interviews all week with Rob. One-word answers are impossible. So I'll be interested to see how this.
Luis, was that the Diablo water mug?
Oh wow!
Look at that, always on brand.
Yeah. Product placement.
Nice. Good.
Okay, here we go. First one. Will every class have their own set of class quests?
No.
Transmogrification, is it going to be a thing?
Yes.
Yes.
What about fishing?
No.
Hey, are
I added that question. I was trying to trick him. Okay. Will Diablo 4 have couch co-op?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, that's
a little slow on the answer, but okay. Like that was we know this is a definitive feature. It's gonna be awesome. Are there town porter scrolls or books in Diablo 4?
Yes. I answer super quick. It's my internet. It's acting up.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Okay, here we go. Although we know that the high heavens closed its gates to the mortals, will we see any angel meddling and sanctuary after Lilith's return?
Technically, yes.
Okay. Technically yes.
Which is the
best kind of yes.
I know. Well, it's kind of like I want to know more now about how angels. Anyway, were we ever close to Nereus' prison during our Diablo adventures?
No. We actually thought about messing with you with this one, but no.
Nice. Okay, moving on. You passed. You survived the lightning round. Congratulations. You can sit back and relax because now I'm going to pick on Wyatt. Wyatt, are you ready?
Oh boy. All right. I'm allowed to do short if it's lightning-ish, right?
Oh, man, working with designers is so much fun because you have to like negotiate and talk about the analysis.
Sorry, can I expand on one of those, Rod? Now that I asked, because I feel like I had the team told me go with the long version, and I think I messed it up and put it on in the wrong pile.
But Luis, you're leaving an opportunity for people to quote you out of context on the table there.
But we like the long answer. It was around the other classes having class quests.
Yes.
So we want every class to have a unique mechanic, and for the rogue it was the specializations. And the way you unlock those specializations is through class quests. So the rogue really needs that to provide context for that mechanic. It doesn't mean that no other class will ever have a class quest. It just means that but it definitely means that it's not something we're doing as a blanket statement that all classes will get class quests going forward. Hopefully that made sense. But also, no.
So wait, a lot more information in there besides hidden in that no. There's so much more information. Okay. Most of the time here is going to be spent on the question. I feel bad that it's a short answer, but the question is, will Diablo Immortal ever consider having mass PvP like guild versus guild in the open world? This thing was the best feature other mobile games have offered, like Black Desert Mobile, etc.
Yes.
Whoa.
Oh, nice. Shit.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
That's cool. It will be lit.
I will allow it. I will allow the extra words so that we can have that.
Oh my god.
Can gestures be included for character animations?
Character animations.
And gestures be included for character animations?
Maybe. I guess I'm not sure what's being asked, but
Yep.
like swipes on the screen or something like that.
Like if you wanted to give me a gesture right now, like can they do would they figure out can you put those kinds of gestures as a character animation?
We'll look into it.
This reminds me of the yes or no Congress hearing question.
Yeah, exactly. I know we have to negotiate yes and no's. All right, back. Will Diablo Immortal support 120 Hz devices?
No, not on launch, but maybe later.
Okay, I will allow it. Will the release include? My pleasure. Will the release include Paladin and Necromancer classes?
If by Paladin the person means Crusader, then yes. The Crusader and the Necromancer will both be part of release.
And will I be able to play them in the next testing cycle?
Ти сигурно, Род.
You maybe.
Just keep trying.
Was that one?
Омръзва ми говоря нещо с тях.
Damn it. It's even worse. Okay. How many players can the largest raid have?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Large groups.
Large groups.
Some. Okay.
Many people.
Moving on. Moving on to Rob. Congratulations, Wyatt. You survived the lightning round. Good job.
Роб почва да се поти, виждам го.
This is going to be strain on you, Rob. Short answers.
The bar has been set quite moderately.
Okay, will trading in D2R still function the same as in D2?
Yes.
No.
And I'm buzzering you on that as an incorrect answer. That is an incorrect answer. It doesn't actually work the same. Come on, talk about linking in chat and all that stuff.
So you will still have to trade with another person, but you have a lot more quality of life features.
Who else would you trade with? Yes, you have to still trade with another person.
Well, you can't trade with the mailbox, right? You can't trade with something like so you can item link. So if you're in a game or in a trade channel, you can be like, check out my item, and you just link it, and they can see the stats. You can also item compare, so you can compare those items to what you already have equipped.
Той е basically international от 2 седмици е Blizzard.
To be able to access trading in the same manner.
Мисля, че е принципал дизайнер.
20 години опит в индустрията.
I will allow it.
Yep.
That was entrapment.
Will you be throwing any new rune words into D2R?
No, not this time.
Not this time.
The most important question of all, which feels odd to not have as the last question, so once again, Pez Radar, thank you very much. But the most important question of all, will D2R overwrite an original D2 installation?
No, absolutely not. Wow, okay. Everything you have about D2 currently will stay D2. This is a separate product, separate game.
Още един научен урок. Аз имам тази кутия, господин Луис Бърига. Моята е по-чукана обаче.
Luis is enjoying his original copy of D2 in the background there, so inappropriately. And next is, well then, what can I load a D2 original character into Resurrected?
Това е въпрос.
So right now we're keeping them separate. The modern Battle.net characters are all more secure. So
да, все пак има и доста проблеми с дюпване.
Okay, well this is it. The final question of the lightning round.
Ето, правилен
Will my Shaco still be green?
Such a correct statement.
Was it green in the first one?
Oh shit,
is that your answer?
No, I'll give people a better answer. So the icon of it is green in your inventory, so it will be green in this one. Whatever it looks like on your character in-game, it's exactly what it looks like on your character in this one.
Okay, I will allow it. All right, that's it. We're out of questions. So I want to thank you for tuning in and watching the Diablo Q&A. I want to thank my three special guests for.
Да, те отдавна забравяха, че са на Lightning Round и имаха пълни отговори, което честно казано ме устройва повече.
Thank you, Luis, Wyatt, and Rob. This has been fun and very informative. I learned a lot. I hope everybody at home watching learned as well. So until next time, we'll see you online.
The bitterness of people, Влади, it permeates matter. Това беше сигурно най-фън панела изобщо, този BlizzCon, by the way. Не като excitement, имаше други неща, по-exciting, but holy fuck, I enjoyed the fuck out of that. И четиримата, бе. Астароте, как така тримата само?
Род също е част от екипа, той е overseer на Diablo франчайза.
But why Chang, do you have a PC? Oh, shit. Oh. Добре. Гай, с това приключваме.
Не, никак не е рандом, човек. И изобщо не е рандом.
Кой бе? Род Фъргюсън ли?
Да.
Дали Род ли е рандом? Намерили са го в Epic.
Да.
След 15 години в Epic. След не знам колко игри.
Да. Човека, на който, Мани го каза малко по-рано, на който се дължи доброто състояние на Gears франчайза в последните десетилетия. Той е школован кадър от първоначално в Epic, после в Covenant ли беше, как се казваше специално подразделението, дето правеше Gears? Имаше си някакъв...
Никакъв случай няма сети. С това приключихме, guys. Искам първо да затворя тази част. Че с това приключи BlizzCon и сме изгледали basically всичко важно, I think.
Yes.
По принцип продължава.
Как е BlizzCon по 10-балната
система? Все още продължава. Искам само да спомена, че все още продължава BlizzCon.
Има още.
Доволно. Набързо ще минем през какво остава. Ако вие искате да гледате на официалния BlizzCon.com, може да продължите да гледате. Всичко е безплатно и така нататък. Има еволюцията на Thrall в World of Warcraft и Cooking Workshop. Има също така и Shadowlands Sound Creation, което е готино. За Hearthstone има Streamer Showdown и Bartender Bob's Advice, което мисля, че ще бъде... I have no idea what the fuck this is. Няма значение. Ще има рисунки за Diablo Hive Mother и това ще е 2 часа, което е много готино, 2 часа и 15 минути, така че ако искате да гледате това нещо, със сигурност ще е много сексапилно. Ще го гледаш утре неделя, Владко.
Yes.
Има Overwatch Community Made Creation in the Workshop. Това ще е много готино нещо за феновете на Overwatch, защото комьюнитито направи някои екстра готини работи в workshop-а. И Overwatch League Crafts with Zoe. Не знам защо, но Zoe Гишуинт е решила да прави някакви крафтс. Тя е по принцип водещата на Overwatch League. И много пекана мацка. Ще има някакви крафтс, Overwatch крафтс. Не знам какво става.
Каква е фамилията й?
Мисля, че е Гишуинт. Тя е швейцарка. Така че...
GSCH. Wow.
Да. Гишвинт мисля, че защото е швейцарка и ми звучи по-немско по този начин. Въпреки, че те са малко немско-френски и швейцарци, няма значение. Artist at Work Carbot Animation, това също ще е мега фън със сигурност, защото художника, директора вече, арт-директора зад Carbot Animation е изключително пекан и хумористичен човек, точно както беше целият панел на Diablo, така че сигурно ще готино също. И Blizzard Art Studio Tracer, Арнолд Цанг, който мисля, че е character директора в Overwatch, ще говори за 25 минутки за Tracer, един маничък Roadhog, Artstream и какво още? Има The Blizzard at K Collection, това е rebroadcast и накрая ще има един show close с Сара Лин Смит, която мисля, че за пръв път ще видим на живо. Тя е Сара Лин Смит, Влади, ако помня правилно, е на Vicarious Vision директорката, която сега е вице-президент на Blizzard рамо до рамо. И точно до един вид дясната ръка на Джей Алън Брак.
Окей, значи си мисля за друг човек.
Мисля, че тя е Сара Лин Смит, защото май я гугълвахме преди 2 подкаста, за да видим.
Екзекутив продуцент на BlizzCon е тая мацка. Правилно си спомням аз, Бобко. За друг човек си мислиш. Това е дамата, която организира BlizzCon от 2 години насам. 3, всъщност.
Окей, добре. Джок, ще видим другата тогава. И с това ще завърши BlizzCon. Тъй, Влади,
да.
Впечатление, давай.
Бате яки BlizzCon. Много съм доволен.
Това ли ви е BlizzCon?
Потвърдиха като цяло следващото десетилетие в работно отношение за мен. Намерих се съвсем случайно така, гледайки стрим, че ме има в Immortal, което е баси милия жест за пореден шибан път. И всичко, което ми казаха за франчайза, който предопределя голяма част от живота ми, е като цяло позитивно. Така че аз не мога да кажа гък този път. И не смятам и да казвам, в смисъл, нали, могат да акнолижна, че може би хората, които са искали някакъв реверанс към оправянето на недостатъците на Reforge, може би.
Може би Vicarious Visions да седнат и да свършат истинска работа.
Нали, да си човек, който се е надявал на Reforge и да гледаш в момента към Diablo 2 комюнитито и как се чувстваш в този момент. Е смазващо със сигурност. Със сигурност и хората, които чакат RTS аспекта на Blizzard да има някакво проявление.
Ако изобщо ще има такъв за напред, Влади. Team One беше екипа, който се занимаваше с RTS-ите и те бяха асимилирани в други екипи и също така напуснаха за да формират Frost Giant, така че Jennifer O'Neill, да, thank you, Норе. Аз искам да ти кажа, Влади, вау, шокираш се, че те има в Diablo Immortal, където Спектра, има Рашковски, все още е елит. Шокираш се, че ти има, Влади, когато девелоперите влязат да цъкат Diablo 3, ти мислиш, че те просто си знаят билдовете ли? Отиваш, това и си вейс, човек, какво си мислиш? Те постоянно виждат Dead Set, те виждат Dead Set, like every fucking day. Естествено, че четат билдовете и играят по тях. Това е най-елементарният начин да играеш Diablo.
Ти как оценяваш BlizzCon, бе, Боби?
Аз му слагам сериозно 9 от 10.
Не е съвпадение, за спък.
Името съвпадение или... Да, Рашковски е. Basically едно от 3 имена в света. Нали?
По какво направление ми има в Diablo?
Имаш инициатива.
Може би не съм ти разказал. Не. По направление, че съм ключов човек в един от най-големите фен сайтове на близърски игри и ти рекафтам много, що се отнася до Diablo франчайза като цяло. И да.
Това не е по принцип единствената причина, просто имаше инициатива от създателите на Diablo, когато искаха да направят готино на комюнитито си и взеха много от големите комюнити играчи като Влади и като тези, които даваха днес, като Мистер Лама и като може би някои от по-старите, взеха на много от тях никовете или имената директно, на Влади специално името беше прекрасно за Diablo вселената и ги сложиха като NPC-та, като рандъм имена на уникални мобове. Където мен ме няма, въпреки 3 години къртовски труд за Diablo. But, oh well. Forgotten.
Наистина, страхотен жест и много яко и съм трогнат и за първи път научавам, в смисъл не са ни казвали, че и в Immortal ще ни има. But there we go.
There you go. Така, както казвах, 9 от 10 му давам. 9, защото всичко, което аз исках да бъде включено, беше включено. И разбира се, едната единица взимам за липсата на StarCraft, липсата на Heroes. И имам чувство, че можеше една идея повече за Warcraft да кажат. Мисля, че бяха малко по-стиснати, отколкото трябва. И все още ме яд на Ion за някои негови ванила разбирания от сорта на Пилъра на WoW, Алианса върху хората. Nobody fucking cares. Хората искат да играят заедно. Много по-голям проблем е. И at this point е just гигантски проблем на това хората да играят заедно. Реалмовете и фракциите в момента разделят играчите. Вече почти няма онлайн игри, нито Games as a Service, нито MMO, нито какъвто и да е тип, който толкова мащабно да разделя играчите си, колкото WoW. Имаш реалмове, и след това имаш такива континентални разделения и след това имаш фракции. И това толкова много ти дели юзър базата, че не можем да се намерим. Ние едва се събрахме 10 човека за рейда, просто защото е толкова трудно някои хора да минат от Орден на Алианс или нещо подобно. И it's a bit of a disappointment, но да. Иначе, за прогресията на WoW, аз съм супер excited. Малко, може да е звучало малко на хората 9.1, но всъщност получаваме нов Мега Дънчън, получаваме нов рейд, 2 нови зони, удължаване на сегашната кампания, заедно с всички Covenant и продължават кампаниите им. Има удължение на Ренаун нивата и така нататък. Всъщност получаваме един от най-големите пачове. Просто е трудно да се представи като такъв. И с летене в точка 1, което е прекрасно, разбира се, и с маунтване в Дамо, което ще го направи поносим най-после. Въобще всичко се подобрява, а Shadowlands вече беше прекрасен експанжен. Абсолютно го слагам рамо до рамо Legion и Pandaria като най-добрите експанжени на WoW ever. И супер доволен за Diablo, разбира се, няма какво да говорим. Влади, ние имаме сумарно толкова часове в Diablo, че аз не знам по какъв начин може да сме недоволни. В смисъл, трябва да сме някакви много ungrateful хора. Много hateful хора трябва да сме, за да не уважим всичко, което правят. Ево на Vicarious Visions и ево на екипите на Diablo Immortal и на Diablo 4. И повече Diablo 4 и по-скоро Immortal и Remaster, please. Please! Това са ми.
Ето, това е... Не къмитват изобщо към дата този път. Нямаше нито една обявена дата на този BlizzCon май. Може би нещо за Hearthstone да е имало по-така закърфичено, като кога ще излиза експанжен, обаче нищо. Може би и Overwatch хората ще искали повече информация, отколкото получиха.
Ами в интерес на истината, Overwatch хората от това, което... Първо, аз като човек, който горе-долу следи развитието на Overwatch, кофти е, че изоставят Overwatch едно така, но точно както мислех, Владко, и Overwatch 2 е доста по-голям overhaul, отколкото хората предполагаха и затова се случи.
Може така, би че... наложено от community feedback.
Може би от community feedback, да. Но тъй като чуха, че през 2021 няма да се случи Overwatch 2, бяха доста недоволни с право. И ето Blizzard казва, да, но ето защо го правим. И според мен беше супер добър панела за Overwatch 2. Мисля, че отива на много готино място и се радвам, защото все пак е синглплеер. Ще ударят супер много синглплеера, а аз съм, да знаеш, че съм повече синглплеер играч. Кооп, айде да речем, с кооп съм по-окей.
Оперативно съдържание по-скоро е The Name of the Game за втората игра, което е интересен.
И съм хайп. И съм хайп.
Изглежда като леко trouble development. Не знам дали аз си създавам грешно впечатление, но може и нещо да е било малко по-rocky under the surface. Не знам как да го кажа. Малко по-хлъзгаво, отколкото изглежда на пръв поглед. Не знам. Стискам им палци. Това, което играх на BlizzCon миналата година, беше забавно и изглежда, че са еволюирали много стабилно в това, което показаха като кооперативни мисии тази година. Те показаха доста по-пълнокръвно нещо от това, което играх тогава и тогава също беше забавно. В смисъл, това е най-добрият вариант и доста повече ми интересува тази версия на Overwatch, която показват, спрямо тая, която беше Overwatch до момента. Така,
съгласен съм, абсолютно. Да спомена, че...
Overwatch 1 ще присъства в Overwatch 2. Може би не сме гледали Overwatch панел, честно казвам, сме пропуснали някакъв такъв.
Гледахме Overwatch панел, Overwatch Behind the Scenes. Какъв панел говориш?
Да. Имало ли е друг? Имало ли е Q&A, нещо такова?
Нямаше Q&A, сега ще има...
Няма Q&A? Окей. Значи сме гледали всичко, да.
Сега ще има Basic... Какво има? Няма нищо свързано с development. Да спомена, не знам колко от вас купуват Blizzard Merch, но в момента има BlizzCon Merch, който е свързан с новите релиси. Има Diablo 4 неща, има една-две тениски за ремастера. Не видях много Immortal нов мърч. Не видях много нов WoW мърч, но има 2 нови книги.
Кейсчета за телефон на Immortal няма ли бе?
Ти поне си с iPhone, за теб могат да направят, но андроидите като са 10 000 вида.
Тегъл.
То е имало за теб, точно това е, че те са релизвали кейсове, но за iPhone. Anyway. Дали има някой на вид да се комбим за поръчка? Аз не знам, още не съм избрал нещо Астерот, но sure, в смисъл, I guess, може да измислим нещо. По принцип, ако решите да правите някаква тегава поръчка, който иде от вас, от BlizzCon магазина, изчакайте 1, 2, 3 месеца, защото Spring Clearance Sale обикновено е by far най-голямата разпродажба на BlizzCon Merch. И се е случвало да падат неща от 50 до 90%. Аз съм купувал изключително всеки някои работи. Да не се хвърлите, просто да дадете ни $200 сега и шипинга да ви е $100 отгоре. Cause that is fucking shit. Добре, Влади, наближава 12 и тъй като твоята коляска скоро ще стане натиква, искам да не те задържам допълнително.
Трогнат съм.
Нали? Ще как го целих на 12. Перфектно.
Право в чувството.
Се видим в среда пак.
That's a wrap, да. Хубаво BlizzCon.
И ще говорим за какво говорим? За BlizzCon. Какво стане на цените? Влади, ти какво прави? Аз гледах BlizzCon. И ти гледа BlizzCon. Яко.
Това са новините тия дни. It's BlizzCon time.
And it's a good time. Мамка му, it's a good time. Те първо ще погледна много от нещата за втори път. Много от стримщата и много от тези странични стримща ще изгледам. Защото са много готини. И ще прочета, защото вече има интервюта, Влади, не знам дали знаеш, насам там по списания. По онлайн медии. Така, толкова от мен.
Хайде, и аз приключвам. Въпреки, че се зачетал в ранта на Мани и мога да го разбера, да. Просто гледам от друга гледна точка на Overwatch, неща, които са ми липсвали от ден първи, що се отнася до изобщо интереса ми в тая вселена и нейните персонажи и това, че сега ми дават някаква причина да ми пука за тях. Малко повече ми се набива на очи, отколкото компетитив аспекта. Някакси, ако нямам кукичката на ангажираността с тази вселена, не мога да се заинтригувам от нейния компетитив аспект, но това са вече някакви по-отвлечени мисли. Лека нощ.
Лека, гайс. Надявам се да има кой да хостнем, ако не, whatever. Ще видим в среда.
Сигурно има. Все някой също прави нещо. Цунки по муцунки.